Good afternoon or good evening. Thank you guys all for being here. What a great opportunity for us to serve you, our constituents, and again, welcome out to our regular meeting of of March 11th, and for the if you'll call roll, please.
Mayor Baroni,
Present.
Councilmember Peralta,
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Here.
Councilmember Han,
Here.
Councilmember Cantu,
Here.
Youth Councilmember Landgraf.
Here.
So all are present and counted for. Thank you. Mr. Jeff Northrup, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please, if everybody would stand? And if you will remain standing afterwards.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we'll just remain standing for a brief moment in silence and prayer, that we might have the ability to carry forward the jobs that we need carried forward. We will be respectful of those in our community, and that we might have a moment of silence for also those that have passed before us and those veterans that have passed before us. Thank you. Approval of the agenda, councilors.
So move.
We have a motion to approve. That was by Mr. Gonzalez. We have a second.
Second.
And a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carries. We have approval of the minutes of February 11th, 2014, regular meeting minutes. Councilors,
Move for approval.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Hahn?
Briefly, Arsenio Cordova's name is spelled with an S, Arcenio. Thank you.
So we have a motion to amend.
So moved.
A friendly second.
It's okay, second.
So, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, motion carries. We'll go on to the item B, February 20, 2014, special meeting minutes. What is the wishes of the council?
Move for approval.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, motion carries. Citizens Forum. Citizens wishing to speak shall limit their comments to 3 minutes, or unless at the mayor's discretion, no action will be taken.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we change the word. I'd like to move that we change the wording of that to state, citizens wishing to speak shall have the opportunity to do so for 5 minutes. No action may be taken. I'd like to strike, limit their comments to 3 minutes. I'd like to strike or less at the mayor's discretion.
That's in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a second to that?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
And we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. So then we'll go ahead and use that new format. If there are citizens wishing to speak, shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. Is there anybody in the audience? Please, if you'll approach and we'll
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm John Painter. I'm a member of the El Prado Water and Sanitation District, and as one board member, I would like to congratulate 3 new members of this council, and I would hope that in the next 4 years that we could, between the district and the town, instead of being adversaries all the time over issues that we could work very closely together. There are actually a number of important issues that have been sort of down there under the deal that need to really get straightened out, and I would hope that we could get together and have a good working relationship from here on out. Again, I congratulate you and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Painter, and thank you for those words of encouragement, and hopefully we can set something up in the near future. Mr. Lavelle? And if, as you step up to the mic, if you'll just state your name for the record, if you would, please.
Good evening. My name is Pavel Lukash, and council, members of the staff, citizens. I came here to congratulate the new team, and now that the fun of the campaign is over, the work of the people commences. And I think you need all of our support, because it's a lot of work that we have ahead of us, and you certainly have my support. And again, congratulations to all of you. And I'm not going to use up even 2 minutes.
Thank you, Pavel.
Thanks, Pavel.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody else in the audience, please?
Mayor, first, thank you for giving me the honor of allowing me to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Last week, even before I had the opportunity to speak at the Citizens Forum, I was tossed from this chamber. I ask your indulgence if I go a few minutes long tonight, possibly beyond the just restored 5-minute limit. I'll read as quickly as I can. The cancer of Darren and Rudy was removed from our town government a week ago. Likewise, Michael Silva is gone. I suspect that Oscar and Brian, ears drooping and tails tucked, will move on. Police Chief Weaver protected the criminal activity of Mayor Cordova, his family, and his friends. He too must move on. Andrew and Fred, given the voters' total rejection of the Cordova administration and the unquestioned support that you gave to that corrupt bunch, you are here by the grace of law, community approval and support long gone. Fred had enjoyed an excellent reputation in Taos, but last week got half as many votes as the despised Darren. Andrew, you offered change, but you immediately, upon election, became a stooge of a corrupt mayor. Fred's political career will end in 2 years, while Andrew is planning to unseat State Senator Carlos Cisneros in 2 years. During the recent election campaign, Fred vowed to listen to the people. Please do it. Andrew, having immediately aligned himself with a lawless administration, may have deservedly doomed his political career. Theoretically, government service is service, not lining pockets and stroking egos. I ask each of you to seek redemption by working with your 3 new colleagues. I will hold their feet to the fire and expect the same from you. But don't be obstructionist. Use your power to help us, to help our town and our citizens reach our potential. I congratulate Dan, Judy, and Fritz on their stunning victories. Each of you have a vision to bring economic prosperity to Taos while supporting our infrastructure and resources sustainability and working with the county in as many ways as possible. The budget process is upon us, and you face many tough decisions. Judy, you are the only woman lawmaker within the town and county, joining 9 men. 2 other women have served in this council within the recent past without in any way distinguishing themselves. But as the mother of 4, you bring a woman's sensitivity to this chamber, a sense of outrage at the way men in our community mistreat women, young girls, and children. Violence and abuse are usually supported by alcohol, drugs, and gambling abuse. Women, too, can cause great harm within their families. What can you do to tackle these problems? Fritz, for decades, you've quietly proven yourself a gift to our community. You have an intimate awareness of the often unimaginable cruelty inflicted on our children and the subsequent lifelong pain. For many years, you oversaw the mentor-mentee program with men engaged in nonviolence, and you continue to work in the field of family dysfunction to this day. Please join with Judy in supporting the wretched helpless among us. Yes, you and Judy and Dan all have powerful ideas brought forth during the election campaign for helping our community, and I fully support all of you. But what is more critical than protecting ourselves from the abusive monsters among us? Dan, your stunning, lopsided victory came as a shock to all of us. But your 2/3 of the vote was substantially less than the 80% that Darren gathered in defeating me 4 years ago. He saw this as a mandate to do whatever he wanted, regardless of what the community needed. And you've had your disappointing moments as a county commissioner, displaying weakness and bad judgment on such issues as land use regulation, support of Darren's Mother's Day concert, vacillating on the Martina Hacienda beer and wine license, naming a building within the county complex after yourself, and the theft of money from the County Housing Authority. But nonetheless, me and 1,103 other voters have overwhelmingly chosen you to lead us to reshape our town and our town government. Just as Fritz has the wonderful Tina to support him, you have Della to help guide you. A new day has dawned, and we will follow you. Dan, Judy, Fritz, a great deal of your public support came from myself, Bill Whaley, Gene Sanchez, and Arsenio Cordova. I flatter myself by including my name with theirs. For my own part, I supported you not because we're friends or I find you to be a congenial folk. Rather, I have my hopes and dreams for our way too unique community, and I believe each of you, in general, share my vision. Finally, I wish all five of you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm Brad Malone. I'm currently chairman of the board of the Taos County Chamber of Commerce for a couple more months. My 3-year term will end at the end of May, and a new board will come into being at that time with a new executive committee. As of tomorrow morning's chamber board meeting, 7 of the 12 members of the chamber board will be representing small historic district merchants. That is a big change that we've fought very difficult times to achieve. We've basically had to reorganize the way that chambers think about what we do. And in the past, that meant that the chamber got money from all the big boys, and it listened to the big boys all the time, and it did what they told them to do. Those days are over. It's a time of change, and we're really, really happy that you guys are, now in charge of the board here of the town. And we wanted to let you know, we've had a great working relationship with staff. The staff has done nothing but act professionally with us and towards us. We've been really appreciative of that. We feel like we're still in the process of growing up, however. And I wanted to let you know, at the state level, it's already showing itself to be a truth that 501c3s and 501c6s under the old business model don't work anymore. They simply can't raise the money to do the things that they intend to do effectively. So for example, the Tourism Association of New Mexico, the New Mexico Restaurant Association, and the New Mexico Lodgers Association will be meeting in a couple of weeks to vote to merge all 3 of those groups into one. Here, our chamber struggles because there are 12 groups who represent themselves as economic development groups. They're for the most part, nonprofits. And that means that we're all competing for the tiny little dollar that exists out there. And I encourage you guys, as you go forward over the next 4 years, to look at that model and think about what can you do as a town to cooperate with the county with decreasing resources and act in the best interest of the community by encouraging people to maybe merge some of these nonprofits, to get their act together, to come to you and speak to you with a single voice in a responsible way in the future. And I really, really hope that you guys have tremendous success. We're really happy that you're in charge now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brad.
Mr. Malone, before you go,
Please.
could you list those organizations that are merging again?
Sure. The Tourism Association of New Mexico, the New Mexico Restaurant Association, and the New Mexico Lodgers Association. They haven't had the formal vote, but all of the legal work has been laid for the merger to happen. And it'll take some period of time after the actual vote of the three boards. But what they expect, I mean, literally, is that there's no way, even though each one of them can raise about $300,000 each, they can't operate. They can't do what those types of organizations are expected to do with the dwindling resources that the state has.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
My name is John Ablin, and I had the wonderful task of moderating the ACD Main Street Task Force that was set up by this council back in February. And first of all, good evening to Mr. Mayor and the council members. The document that you have here has been crafted by the 2 task force meetings that we had. And then I had worked with Mr. Bellis to finalize it, formalize it, so that we could have it in a format that could be used. And this has to do with the ACD Main Street issues, that the town wanted to have recommendations from the community, from the stakeholders, to identify what they would like to have the town do. And so you have in front of you then the memo and the activities that we performed. And I'm not going to read all of the recommendations. You can see what they are there. But basically that the town should get back engaged with the ACD Main Street. And I think that that would be a benefit for all of us concerned.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the board? Not? Thank you. That's something that we will look forward to working with the county. I think the county presently has that designation, and I think we can work together and move this organization forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Nice job. Mr. Silva?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. First of all, congratulations. It's I had to come back here. Old habits are hard to break, you know. And I didn't let Jeff leave the door a little bit ago because he said that I had left. Well, just to let you know, I'm a member of this community. I'm not leaving. I'm here. I'm one of you. We're all in this together. Democracy is alive and well in Taos. Congratulate you again. And I happen to have 3 lapel pins that were on my dresser, and I thought it's what better than to give them to the new members of this body. So that's what I'm here to do.
Thank you, Councilor, and thank you for the work that you did while you were sitting on this board. And Councilor Peralta?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just have to remind the ex-councilor that if he comes to our meetings, he has to wear a suit.
Thank you again. Anyone else in the audience that would like to, please, Judge?
I'll stand up here because I promised I wouldn't turn my back on you. I'm not going to start today, okay? Mr. Mayor, council members, new council members, congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Peralta, congratulations also for making a run at it. That tells me that you care about your community. Andrew, let's work together, okay? Mr. Mayor and council members, as you know, or maybe as you don't know, the morale of the town has been way down here for the past few years. One of the reasons is because our employees aren't recognized, okay? I think that in starting tonight, in the coming few weeks, you are going to discuss priorities, and you're going to set priority number 1, number 2, number 3, and so forth. I would ask you to, in fact, I would beg you to make the employees of town your number 1 priority and give them a raise, 3%, 2%, 5%, 10%, whatever. They haven't gotten a raise in the last 5 years, and to me that's neglect, okay? That's neglecting your employees. Remember, you are only what your employees are, what your employees make you. I would hate to think of where I'd be if it were not for Claudette and Lupita, my 2 clerks, okay? They're the ones that have me where I am. I don't know anything about the office. All I know how to do is slam that little hammer, guilty or not guilty, and give you a fine, okay? Lupita and Claudette are the ones that run the office. They are the ones that make me look good. Employees are the ones that make you look good. Recognize them, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor, and that is a priority I believe that we have already instilled in our first meeting that took place. That's one thing that we really want to do is recognize our employees. In the past, when I sat in as a commissioner, one of the things that we brought forward is applauding employees that went on and above their call of duty, and we want to bring that to the town. We do, through the county, offer them a paid day off if they are the employee of the month. That's something that we will look at here in the town, and raises that, you know, can't promise anything. Again, we're working with our not only legal, but our making sure that the money is in the budget. We're going to try to make sure that the money is there. We're asking all the department heads to look for that money to honor our employees. So I don't know if there's counselors.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, you know, one thing that, as being an employer in this community, I mean, dealing with budgets, you know exactly how hard it is. Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you employing several people. Fritz being in the employment of, in the realm of employment yourself, Councilor Peralta, and Judy. You know, I think the one thing is that we've always valued the employees. We made it through a extremely difficult economic time, and we are still coming out of that. And as of our last priority, which this new council and mayor will soon be briefed on, was our employee compensation plan, which is just up and coming. And I know, you know, a lot of things were said during the election with regards to raises and whatnot, but, you know, the only thing I ask is that we really take a look at how an employee raise and evaluation. We have an organization of 280 employees, and what that does is really impact our budget with regards to even a 3%, and that's what we've all pledged, and the last council pledged. And it's not going to be a straight across 3%. We're looking at those that are the most disadvantaged, that are below the mark within this organization to bring up to par. So, Judge, thank you. I know you've been a huge advocate of the employees. I know you also said during your election run that when we looked at setting policy with regards to the judge's wage, you wouldn't take the increase even yourself, and I still applaud you for that. So, Mr. Mayor, councilors, I know it's up and coming with our budget. It's a tough decision because it's a lot easier said than done. When you sit down, you actually look at the numbers and how it actually impacts us, because it's not a one-time raise. This is something that impacts us year after year after year. It doesn't go away. We can't just give it once. It's not a bonus. So I am committed to making sure our employees get the biggest bang for their buck, and we, you know, us as the city councilors who are tasked to watch the dollar of the city, do the best that we can to make sure that those employees are receiving as close to, if not a living wage. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything else? Anyone else? Please.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to congratulate all the new members of the town council.
And your name for the record. I know who you are.
You know who I am.
but
I'm
just
sorry.
for-
My name is Gary Storch.
Thank you.
I'm retired. I actually had no intent to say anything here this evening, but this is an opportunity, and time is a factor. I'd like you to put something on a priority that does not involve finances or anything out of your budget. The last 8 months, I have been a board member on Stray Hearts. The last couple of years, we have had to deal with the fireworks directly over the dogs. I'd like all of you, I don't want all of you, but in the past, I have asked people to come over there. We have taken dogs out of the pods, sent them to people. If you could only see how the animals react to the explosions in the pods when those fireworks go off. The animals don't have a voice, they can't be here, they can't speak. What I would request from you as a priority, we only have a few months till July 4th, and we only have a few meetings. I would really ask that on your priority that you find another location for the fireworks for 4th of July and give the animals there a break. That's all I ask. Thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you. We'll sure consider that. Please.
Good evening. My name's Douglas Patterson. Welcome and congratulations, Mayor, council members, Manager Rodriguez, and youth member council. I come to you tonight on behalf of Taos Municipal Schools as an architect for Taos Municipal Schools. And I just wanted to, one, thank the previous administration for working with us on a big project downtown, which is the renovation of the Taos Municipal Schools administration site. It's the 5-acre site right in front of Town Hall. Throughout 2013, we worked together to come up with a redevelopment plan for downtown, which was the realignment of Town Hall Drive and the completion of Manzanara Street through the school site and the completion of that park. And we're coming close to going to construction on that project. So we'll be coming back to you very soon and hopefully finalize a memorandum of understanding. I think it was in August or September of 2013 that the town committed funds for their portion of the project, and the schools have committed funds to their portion of the project. We have a couple of great partners in downtown Taos, Taos Municipal Schools, the town of Taos, and University of New Mexico, and it's a great project that really aligns big benefits for all three interested parties. And I would just ask that in the next couple weeks here, that we be able to come forward and work out a memorandum of understanding so that we can finalize that project and go to construction. It's a really important project for Enos Garcia. There's 500 or 600 cars that come through Town Hall Drive in Manzanares to pick up and drop off kids. It's a huge safety issue that we've had on the agenda, and we have everything in place to go to construction on that this summer and get it completed before the start of school in August. And I look forward to working with all of you to make that happen. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Doug, if you could, just for the new sitting councilors' purview, maybe within our next meeting, Mr. Mayor, we could have you make the same presentation you made to us previously, so that they're fully understood.
I brought it in my pocket. I'm sorry. I should have shown up earlier so I could have put those images on the screen. I know you've got a lot to do tonight, so I'd certainly like to come to the next town council meeting and hopefully have a spot on the agenda. And if I may work with Manager Rodriguez in the meantime to develop that memorandum of understanding with some language that works for the schools and for the town.
And make sure you would get you on the agenda for our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else? Please.
My name is the old Rich Nichols. There's 3 younger ones floating around here. And I am making an appeal to the council to return the blood drive to Holy Cross Hospital. My wife and I have worked on that for years. And the former leader here chose to move it to this facility because the story we got was Well, the morale in the city is extremely low. What that has to do with the blood drive, I haven't got a clue. This is a horrible location for a blood drive. Parking is deplorable. They've done that years ago, and we ended up going to the Holy Cross Hospital, which is an ideal location. There's plenty of parking there, and I have to say, my wife was dedicated to it. And you got the text from the United Blood Drive, look forward to coming up here because Phyllis fed them well. I would ask you to reconsider having the blood drives here and allow it to go back to Holy Cross Hospital. I thank you very much.
And Mr. Nichols, if you would, let the public know and our employees know when that blood drive is.
The blood drive, I
Believe it starts Friday?
Yeah, I think it's this Friday. Friday and Saturday. And I've had a lot of people, because they knew that Phyllis and I were deeply involved in it, that asked, well, when is the blood drive? And, well, you know what? I don't want to go over there. I sat there and waited for a long time. The one customer I had said he sat here for a long time before they were going to take care of him. He went to get in his car. He had gotten a ticket, and it cost him like $40. So here's a gentleman that will not donate blood again. He's had it.
Councilor Peralta?
Mr. Mayor, Rich, why would the town have the authority as to where the blood drive would be?
I don't know where the pull is at, but it was.
And there's been no indication to you from the hospital that they don't want it?
None whatsoever. Peter was a big backer of the blood drive. He did everything in the world for us when we had it there.
I think the blood drive should be wherever it's most convenient for those individuals who are running the blood drive. And it shouldn't be something that happens to come down politically. That's the wrong way to do it.
That's the story we got. We got that from the blood coordinator that worked for United Blood Service. Said that the reason why it moved over here was the mayor wanted it over here because the morale of the employees was low. And from what I hear, it's not the blood that causes the morale to be low, but it's the dollars and cents that cause it to be low.
Well, it might be the lack of blood.
Well, that could very well be.
But I agree with you. I think that the blood drive should be in a location that's convenient to the individuals that are giving the blood, and I can't see why the hospital wouldn't be that great location. The only thing I would think of would be if they didn't have the space to do it. But if that hasn't been an indication, then
For years,
I'm all for it. Except this weekend, I guess it's too late to change it.
That's over the other side of the river already.
Okay.
But we've had it in the day surgery area on Saturday and Sunday, and we get a tremendous turnout. We get over 100 and, well, the last draw we had was, what, 2 years ago, and I think we had 114 pints over the 2 days. So to us, it was a tremendous success. And it's been over at the hospital for quite a few years, and Phyllis took it over in, got to be good 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in the event that there are people who are listening and want to donate blood Friday and Saturday, it will not be here. It's at Town Hall. There's no parking meters there, so there won't be a problem. And the town doesn't organize it. We don't initiate it. We don't propose the dates or anything like that. It's a volunteer group that asks for the time, and all we do is say yes. And otherwise, we it's not a decision that the town makes. We just respond to a volunteer group saying.
Well, that's what you're telling me. That's what you're telling me. But I have different stories.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for bringing that to
And
us.
it's just Rich. It's not Mr. Nichols.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Congratulations to the newly elected. We look forward to an awesome relationship. I'm Dennis Monsonatos. I think I come here on behalf of two items. Number one is as a member of the Taos County Chamber of Commerce Board. Brad did an excellent presentation this evening for you. As he mentioned, he's outgoing. This is my first year on the board. I'm incoming. So I'm the person that's probably going to be the governmental relations chair of the committee from the chamber, and we look forward to a continuing relationship with the town council as well as with the county commissioners. Which takes me to the second item, and I also serve as a volunteer member of the Taos Mountain Balloon Rally Committee. And we just came from the first organizational meeting of the year of Timbra, and we'd like to again work with the town, and we'll be approaching the county as well to support the Taos Mountain Balloon Rally. As you may be aware, a couple of years ago there was an issue as to whether we could even continue it because the volunteerism in the community to support that had dwindled. Last year we had a resurgence, and it's looking very good for this year. As you know, it's always going to be the 2 weekends after the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. That's a set date every year. We have made arrangements for housing for the pilots that are coming in from out of town. So we know it's going to be a good economic draw for the community. And we'll be bringing more information to you and obviously asking for support for that worthwhile endeavor as well. So again, congratulations, and on those two fronts, as probably a small business person here in town as well, I look forward to working with each and every one of you in your esteemed roles. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If none, again, I'd like to thank you guys for all being here to this evening. It's a great opportunity, first meeting of our 4 years. So again, thank you for being here and thank you for being part of it. So we'll go ahead and move on to our matters from the staff. Letter A, state grant application for one-way 1230 construction phase 1, consideration and possible approval to apply for and accept a grant from the New Mexico Department of Transportation Aviation Division for phase 1 of the runway 1230 construction of Taos Regional Airport in the amount of $486,111 with a town match of $486,112. And Mr. John Thompson, our airport manager, I think this is, you want to give us a rundown and how this comes to us and our possibilities?
Well, I've also got the Armstrong Consultants, the engineering firm that just completed the design with me here, if you guys don't mind coming forward. This is Tim Archibek and Mike Garcia from Armstrong Consultants. Tim has just a brief rundown of what got us to this point in the airport expansion project.
And again, as Armstrong, we'd like to welcome the new mayor and councilman to this council. Yeah, we just wanted to kind of give a kind of real brief synopsis of how we got here and what's been done for the airport. In September 2011, we had the environmental impact statement completed. That wasn't us that completed. It was a long process, almost 20 years that you guys had to get that completed. And then after that, we had in October 2011 a big meeting here with the FAA Director Huerta. Senator Bingham was here, and basically to congratulate and honor that great moment when that EIS was completed. December 31st of 2011, we had the memorandum of agreement signed by all, and that was a pretty monumental date there. We started design as Armstrong in
And just to be
October.
sure, that who signed that memorandum of agreement was the Taos Pueblo and the town of Taos.
Yes, yes, correct. Sorry about that. It was between the Pueblo and the town of Taos. That kind of finalized the EIS and the whole process that had been ongoing for many years. We started design in October 2012. It was a two-phase design. We had 2 phases in there. We completed that in last month, February of 2014. And then 2 weeks ago, on February 25th, we basically delivered our final design and plans and contract documents to the town, and we also completed that with basically delivering them to the FAA and the state DOT. So that's kind of where we are right now as far as the design is complete, and we're ready to go on to the next process, which is construction.
And at this time, we're bringing forward to you the state grant application, requesting authorization to enter into that agreement with the state of New Mexico Department of Transportation Aviation Division. This will be the kickoff for the construction, the first phase of construction of the runway project. With this in place, we'll be able to move forward with the scope of work for Armstrong Consultants. We'll be able to get ready for the bidding process and move forward with it. Does anybody have any questions right now?
And John, I just want to make sure that the process that we're looking at is basically, this started, I don't know, 14, 15 years ago, correct?
30, actually, I believe
30, maybe longer than that.
30 plans were first, the first plans I saw for the expansion of the airport was 1986. And then it was stopped in 1991 until the environmental impact statement could be completed.
Okay. So this is basically the first phase of the state grant, which then we use that as part of a match for the federal grant. Is that correct?
That's correct. This would be the town and the state match 5% each, and then the federal grant from the FAA would be based on actual bids.
Okay. So time sensitive. How time sensitive is this?
We are under a time constraint. I've got a letter here I'll pass out to all of you from the New Mexico Department of Transportation. And one paragraph here states, all federal grant applications are required to be based on bids. May 1st, 2014 is the deadline to have your project ready to go out to bid. And so, yes, we are under a time constraint here. It's not due to lack of planning. It's just that's where we are in the process. It's not a rushed deal just because you guys first came. This is your first meeting. That's just where we are in the process.
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor?
If I could, the one thing I want to stress is that the Pueblo, our brothers and sisters to the north of us, are hugely instrumental in this actually taking place, and partly because it was concession between the FAA, the partners, and all the stakeholders that were engaged to get the Pueblo the aircraft monitoring system, which protects their vital spaces, which is their religious lands. Mr. Mayor, this is something we've been, going back and forth on, and I think cognizant of the whole annexation issue. I think, irregardless whether or not it takes place or not, that I think it's imperative that we move the project forward, as, just to not send any messages or mixed messages to the FAA themselves with regards to where we are. Mr. Manager, if you could bring us to light as to how the city plans to make the matching fund or our portion of the match.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, you have item B, a related item, which is how we move money around in our capital budget in order to make our match here. And of course, it's phase one of 2 phases. We're going to have to come up with about this amount of money to make that match, and I guess that would be coming up in another year and a half or so from now. The plan was to pay for that with revenue that we would get from the gross receipts tax on the construction project itself. Our general estimate is, depending on the bids that come in, some $600 to $700, maybe even up to $800,000, depending on what the construction project is. And so, the plan was to be able to pay for our match by that means.
And just one question, so during that match period, basically we need to come up with that match as the bills come in for the construction phase, is that correct?
No, sir. We have to put the money down at the beginning.
onset.
So the way it would go here is that we would apply for the state to get this $486,000 that we would match it with our $486,000. Together, that comes up to 10%, 5%, and 5% of the 100%. $8 million, $9 million, however, $10 million that the bids come in. And so that would pay for the soft costs, the engineering costs, the project management costs. And so, and what they're asking us here to do is then by April 1, put it out for bids. And so depending on what those bids are, the federal government, FAA, would say, okay, we accept what those bids are, and so now it's time for you to apply for the federal part of it, the 90% of that. And at that point, we come up with our 5% of that. No, excuse me. This is our 5% towards that one. And so we would have to come up with another $483,000, as I was explaining, when we do phase 2. So right now, we're putting up the money, Mr. Mayor, we're putting up the money that's required for this phase 2, phase 1. When phase 2 comes up, we'd have to come up with another $483,000. Now, obviously, when the construction starts to take place, they will be doing so after paying gross receipts tax. And again, depending on how much comes from there, hopefully we'll have some of that money. Some of that money will then be used to pay us back for this $483,000, or to make up the match we would have to come up with on phase 2. I hope it's a lot of intricacies there. I hope that's clear.
Councilor Hahn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and fellow councilors, Councilwoman, and citizens. I have had a number of concerns about the airport, and initially this evening was going to move that we table this discussion to a work study to accurately assess what's going on, to get a history of the project, and to calmly and reflectively move forward. I had a meeting this afternoon with Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Garcia, and Mr. Urchebek, and it became apparent that we have a serious time constraint. I expressed some of these concerns. First of all, this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for us to collaborate with our county. And I noticed that there are a number of county officials here tonight, and I'm really grateful for your presence. The collaboration is key. That is what the voters have told us. While door knocking low these many months, here's some other concerns from the taxpayers. How is this going to be maintained? Mr. Thompson has been working on a maintenance plan, and I have some assurance that maintaining the airport will move forward in a logical fashion. Some other citizens are currently landlocked at the airport. That is, they have no way of accessing their land. It is true that in a previous administration, 1 or 2 of those families were compensated, but by and large, the majority are not. And this is an issue that has to be addressed. I brought that up with Mr. Rodriguez this afternoon, And it's my understanding that the town of Taos is going to move forward in a proactive way to resolve this landlocked situation. What does that have to do with the airport? Well, perhaps not much. But what citizens are telling me is simply, why are we spending $22 million on a runway when I can't access my property? Why are we spending $22 million on a runway when my kids fall into potholes? So that brought up the fourth issue, which is, are we moving money out of capital projects that should be going into streets and infrastructure into the airport? Now, Mr. Rodriguez and I are going to be meeting on Thursday, and I'm sure he's going to educate me on that matter. For the moment, I'm being assured that that is not the case, so more will be revealed. Finally, some are concerned about the types of aircraft that are landing out there. Are we going to have F-16s? Now, that's my poor attempt at humor. My wife is always telling me I've got to develop my sense of humor. So I'm working on it, but there will be no F-16s. I wish Mr. Thompson could put up a picture of the largest type of aircraft that the airport could handle. It looks to me to be the equivalent of like a Southwest Airlines 75 passenger load. Something like that, okay. I can be corrected. Oh, John's telling me it's less, okay. I'm not a pilot. I only fly once every 5 years or so I'm not the guy to ask about that. But, so I have addressed many of these concerns. I feel that because of the time constraints, where I was originally going to propose that we table this for a work study, out of deference to our department head, John, I'm going to rely on Mr. Thompson's advice that we continue to move forward on this, with the understanding that these other 6 issues, working collaboratively with the county, the maintenance issues, annual maintenance fees, the landlocked issues, the different types of aircraft, and potential negative impacts will all be addressed. So in a sense, as a new counselor, I feel like we've been sandbagged. You know, we got into office 6 days ago, and suddenly we're making a decision on $750,000 worth of projects. And I felt that was absurd. However, given the time constraints, given the previous council's decision, I'm not going to bring up that motion and am in support at this point for this grant application and budget expenditures to move forward. Thank you.
Is that in a form of a motion, sir?
Actually, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, before we do that, Mr. Mayor, before we do that, I realized just now that we have a couple of things backwards here. We need to do item B first in order for us to have the money to do item A. So, because in the budget, we only have $350,000, and to adjust the budget up to the $486,000, we need to approve item B first so that we can approve item A. Otherwise, there's insufficient funds in the budget for item A.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I ask that we amend the agendas to move item B into the position of item A into position B.
Okay, in form of a motion?
In form of a
We have a
motion.
second to that?
I'll second.
And a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Could we,
Wait, before.
could we, and
Discussion?
just briefly, if we could continue with the workshop in a reasonable fashion, I think that would be helpful to me. So if we could set that time and date at
Mr. Mayor, if I could, to answer your question, this afternoon or this morning in a discussion I had with the manager was to have a workshop meeting with the council over the whole budget that in very quickly, so that you can be brought up to date about all the things that we considered when we looked at this budget about 10 days or so ago. So I felt that it was proper for us to do that in order for you to be brought up to speed on what's going on, and we can answer these questions for you that you had tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a
Counsel-
comment
Councilwoman?
also. I'm really grateful that I was at Town Hall and in on this meeting, and you explained things very eloquently for a woman, and it's Greek to me, and you explained it so that I completely understood it, and I'm just really grateful that Taos is in a league where we're competing for funds with the huge airports in Chicago, Atlanta, and other places, and that the funds are available for our little Taos airport. And I also was going to ask to table this also so I could better understand it, but you explained it quite well, and I'm not going to give you a problem.
Mr. Mayor, we're under,
Councilor
we're under
Gonzalez?
discussion, so if we could take a...
Yes, so we're under discussion, so we'll go ahead and, if we will take a vote about amending the agenda, or moving item B to in place of A and A in place of B. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? None. Motion carries. So then, we'll go ahead and go on to Resolution 1418, capital budget adjustment of $136,112, airport expansion project. Consideration and possible approval of a budget amendment to accept a state grant of $136,112 and transferring a total of $136,112 from various town capital funds to the Phase 1 of the Crosswinds Airport Runway construction project to meet the town's local match requirement of $486,112. Accepting $136,112 in grant funds from the New Mexico Department of Transportation Aviation Division, transfer to Crosswinds Airport Runway construction projects, $678,000 from the unreserved fund balance in Capital Projects Fund, $12,003 from the undesignated capital municipal gross receipts tax, and $2,431 from the undesignated capital infrastructure gross receipts tax. Marietta? Our finance director, and thank you, Ms. Bambro.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. The resolution you have before you is just transferring those monies that you stated. We actually have $350,000 originally budgeted this year for this project, for this phase. With the adjustments now, that will bring us up to equal our match that is required. And these are all capital revenue sources, so nothing from general fund, just from capital resources. I think you have all the background. If you have any questions, I stand for them right now.
If I may, just to make a clarification, and responding directly to your concern, Councilman Hahn, none of these transfers are being taken from an existing project. They all come from either undesignated reserves, well, they all come from undesignated reserves, surpluses at this point. Right, so none of this money was designated to another project. We're not taking money from another project to do this.
Mr. Mayor and Manager Rodriguez, so to be blunt, anything coming out of streets, sewage?
No, sir.
Thank you.
No, sir.
And again, Mr. Rodriguez, and none of these funds, again, it's an issue that we want to make sure that we address here fairly quickly, is the annexation issue, and none of these funds have been generated through any of that, correct?
No, sir.
Okay,
No,
just
sir.
want to make sure that...
And just to make it, just so you have the full picture here, the reason we're only taking $136,000 is because the council had budgeted for this year in our capital budget $350,000 already. So we're really just taking the extra money to come up to the 483. At the time that we budgeted, we weren't certain exactly how much it would be, and so now we know the number exactly, and that's why we're having to make up the difference.
Okay. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of Resolution 14-18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Not. Motion carries. So then we'll go ahead and move on to item A, the state grant application for runway 2030 construction phase. Councilor?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of of grant application 2030.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Discussion, if any? Not. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, with your permission, there's an item much at the very end of the agenda, 9B, which is an item you'd asked that be put on here so they could get full discussion from the council. And what I did is I asked the chief legal counsel for the New Mexico Municipal League to stand by to give us that briefing, so that way you wouldn't have the briefing from someone who's at play here. And so that person, Andy Van Vleck, is available now.
Mr. Mayor, if I could real quickly, I'd like
Please.
to acknowledge, going back to the acknowledgement thing, our two employees with our airport division who work extremely hard and have dodged political crossfire, if you will, with regards to this airport project. Thank you for being patient, and thank you for keeping the course.
And if I may, I'd like to recognize Eric Cortez, our maintenance specialist out at the airport. There are two of us that do the maintenance and all the work out at the airport, and I'd just like to commend him for all his hard work out at the airport.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And John and staff, I really would applaud, as Commissioner did, and I just want to reassure you that during my time at the county, we will continue to support the airport. We have always said that the airport is a vital portion of our community, and it can bring economic development, and we are not against the airport. What we were against is the annexation. So thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Eric.
So, councilors, would you like to amend the agenda so that we would move to item 9B at this time?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion. Do we have a second to amend the agenda? And a second. If any further discussion? Not. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we'll move forward with that. So matters from the mayor and the council, council member. B, process for conducting organizational meeting, discussion regarding the process for holding the organizational meeting, which will take place within 21 days after the municipal election held on March 4th, 2014. I understand we have Mr. Andy Van Vleck on the, Randy Van Vleck.
Hi, this is a recording of Randy Van.
He was just on the phone and said he was available, so I guess he's on another line.
Randy Van Vleck here.
Mr. Van Vleck, Mayor Baroni, we can you hear us?
Hang on a second.
Hold on one second. Mr. Van Vleck?
Okay,
Hello?
yeah, I just sent you on a separate speakerphone for me, so I can hear better. Are you there?
Yes, Mr. Van Vleck? Mayor Baroni, we're in session, and just giving you an opportunity, if you would, the organizational meeting, which needs to take place, if you want to let us know on what the procedure that we need to follow.
Well, I thought it depends a lot on you, Mayor. the organizational meeting accomplishes two things. One, the simplest part is where you can, you and the council yourself organize yourself into committees if you have them. The council can elect the mayor pro tem at this point in time, and so those kind of functional things that deal with the operation of the council itself can happen at this meeting. The other part of the meeting is probably the more touchy part, and that's where it really depends upon you, Mayor. Let me kind of give you a little background. Generally speaking, if you want to replace an individual who's in the employment of the town, you have to take a two-step process. You have to, first of all, dismiss them from employment, which requires a vote of the council, and then hire somebody else, which requires another vote of the council. The organizational meeting is the one and only time where you can basically replace an individual who is working there now without a vote of the council. So in other words, you could replace the sitting city clerk with a new person, and you wouldn't have to get a vote to essentially dismiss the sitting clerk, but you would have to get a vote to replace, to have the new replacement hired. It's kind of an arcane system, but it allows you basically to replace individuals who are the clerk, the manager, the attorney, excuse me, and any other at-will employees that you have in the town of Taos employment stable.
Randy?
It's one and only time that it's available to you.
Mr. Van Black, we have,
okay.
Councilor Gonzalez has a question for you.
Hi, Randy. This is...
And so the process would basically be... Oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's hard to hear. No, you're going. Go ahead. Hey, Randy, it's Councilor Gonzalez. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I just had a question for you with regards to the statement that you just gave, and under the past two, under the last election that we went through, I was under the impression that at the organizational meeting, the mayor did have purview to replace, but it was under the discretion and per ratification of the council. Has that since changed?
Well, no. What the council has prerogative over is the appointment, not the dismissal. So it's basically, let me just read it to you, and it'll make sense. Okay. It says, at the organizational meeting, the mayor shall submit for confirmation by the governing body the names of persons to fill the appointive offices. So that's the clerk, treasurer, attorney. Okay. If the governing body fails to confirm that person as an appointed official, the mayor brings forth a new name at the next meeting. Now, you have to read that in conjunction with Attorney General's opinions that say failure to confirm basically means you're dismissed. So if the mayor does not want to have the clerk or the treasurer serve any longer, all he needs to do is name a replacement. And so the council's job then is to either approve or disapprove the replacement. The vote as to whether or not the sitting incumbent continues to work is not taken. It's not necessary at this one and only meeting. It's the one and only time when the mayor has that opportunity to replace somebody without first having to dismiss them from employment.
Yeah.
So the council still gets to vote. It's just they don't get to vote on the departure of the employee. They get to vote on the arrival of the new one.
Randy, this is Fred Perot. And that's exactly what I'm saying, is that any appointment at the organizational meeting must be approved by the council. It's not a matter of whether that person is a replacement or not. It's whoever the mayor puts in play for the council's ratification is what is voted on by the council, and not necessarily whether that is an incumbent or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's an incumbent, you still vote on an incumbent. Okay? Put it this way. The mayor needs to make a choice for clerk, treasurer, police chief, manager, and attorney. Those 5 positions. The mayor needs to make a selection, whether it be the incumbent or whether it be somebody new. And the council votes on that. That person, if they get the votes, will continue or become employed by the town. If the mayor chooses to replace an incumbent with somebody else, that incumbent is, for all intents and purposes, dismissed. And dismissed without a vote of the council.
Anything else?
Well, so let me give you another example, okay? This kind of works for, just make sure you understand it. You've got a sitting treasurer right now. Mayor decides that he would like to replace the treasurer with me. So he names me at the organizational meeting. Basically, he says, I want Randy Van Vleck to be the new treasurer. The council will then vote on whether or not to approve me as treasurer. If you approve me as treasurer, I'm the new treasurer. The incumbent treasurer has effectively been discharged. If you do not approve me, the incumbent treasurer continues to serve until her successor is approved. But in the meantime, the mayor needs to bring forward a new name at each regular meeting to fill that vacancy. You cannot go backwards and then rehire the treasurer. That treasurer has basically been dismissed. That's the double-edged sword of this meeting, if you will.
Anything else, councilors?
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Randy.
Oh, okay, very welcome.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
So, council, we heard Mr. Van Black and his description of what we have ahead of us. So, do we want to schedule a meeting?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor?
I ask that we schedule our organizational meeting at our next regular meeting, but, prior to, so that we can name either the confirmation of those individuals or hear your candidates for appointment.
Okay.
I believe that would be exactly 2 weeks from now, Renee.
And just
would that be a special meeting?
The next regular meeting is the 25th, so, and it can be in the regular meeting.
We did it as an executive last time.
And one more thing, Mayor and council members, the 25th is the deadline to do your appointments also.
I think we need to...
Maybe do it the week
I
before?
think we need to do it before then. Councilor?
Councilor Gonzalez, thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. I'd like to maybe amend that and give us a specific time. I'd like to move to call a special meeting to discuss personnel matters in executive session this Friday at 3 p.m.
And maybe
that won't work for me.
Excuse me, Mayor, council members, due to the state law that requires us to give 72 hours notice for a public meeting, I think Friday is going to be too soon to have a meeting. So the soonest you can do a council meeting would be Monday to give proper notice to the public.
So let me augment then, Renee, to state this Monday at 3 p.m.
3 p.m. next week, all next week is bad. I can do morning anytime prior to. Or we can do it at 6.
Morning, oh, we can do it at 6. Can we do it at 6 on Monday?
I'll make it work.
Judy?
Let me look at my calendar real quick. I don't have a problem with any time Monday.
Okay.
So let me restate that motion then to go into a special meeting to discuss personnel matters in executive session on Monday, the 17th at 6 p.m.
Okay. And Councilor Hahn, I just want to make sure with this, the motion would have to be conducting an organizational meeting and with an opportunity to go into executive session if need be to discuss personnel matters. I think that's the motion that would meet that criteria. would it not?
Sir, that'd work. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question of the council? Are you asking for the organizational meeting to be on Monday, or are you just asking for an executive session to discuss personnel matters?
I'm asking for the organizational meeting to occur this Monday at 6. I suppose it's possible that we would need to go into executive session. Do you have any thoughts on that, Councilor Peralta?
No, I just want to make sure that because you started off with an executive session, so I didn't know if you just wanted to discuss personal matters then, and then have the organizational meeting another time. Just wanted clarification.
Well, I'd like to second that.
Second the motion.
Under discussion, Mr. Mayor?
Discussion?
I think it would, and not to belabor the issue, but I think it would maybe behoove us to have the executive session prior to the organizational, and that way each counselor can state his or her concerns with regards to how appointments will go.
I think what we need to do is open the meeting.
Well, yeah, open
the
and then go into
organizational
executive.
meeting, and then retreat to our executive session. I think that, and I think the motion I think that he made was a good one.
Okay.
I think because then we can open the meeting and then retreat to a executive session under the provision that applies.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. So we do have a motion, do have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. So we'll go back then to Resolution 1417, authorizing signature authority for designated bank accounts. Consideration and possible approval of Resolution 1417, authorizing signature authority for designated bank accounts of the town of Taos. Mrs. Fambro?
Mayor, council members, again, this is just housekeeping. We need to get these bank accounts changed. We had former elected officials on that, changing it to yourself, Mayor, and to Mayor Pro Tem Councilmember Gonzalez, and then myself and Oscar. Policy is that Mayor and I sign all checks of the town of Taos in lieu of you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, or council member, whoever's on the account, and in lieu of me, the manager.
Okay. So we need a motion for this.
I'll make the motion.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Marietta, the Mayor Pro Tem would have to be appointed before this is done, and that'll probably be done at the organizational meeting, is that correct?
I didn't really put the Mayor Pro Tem as a person. If that's the direction that you're going to take, that the Mayor Pro Tem will do this duty, then yes, we'll have to change that if it's not Councilmember Gonzalez.
Which you can change at any time. I mean,
Okay.
if next week you want to change the names for whatever reason,
Oh, for the,
We'll do that.
yes.
Oh, okay.
It just,
really what this does is add just one, all this does is add one name, and that's the mayor's name.
actually, it adds two names, because we had Councilmember Abeyta as this other signature. So it actually adds two names. And I guess maybe if we want to wait for that, because we were going to start with signature cards in
That's-
this fashion.
Mr. Mayor, and that's in the event that you're absent when checks need to be signed.
But,
Councilor?
Marietta, then, because we've lost both of the signatories from the elected side,
Yes,
we wouldn't have anybody available to sign checks right now, correct?
exactly, right. And we have a payroll coming up next week on Friday.
So we do need to, even if it's temporary, we do need to appoint somebody.
Right. And if it's temporary, yes, that's fine.
Okay.
And we'll just come back and change that again.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to do it until we figure it out at the organization.
Okay. That'll be great. We can include that in the motion for temporary. Okay. So,
We have a motion?
we have a motion on the floor
Second.
and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. So go on to resolution
Thank
number 14-16 to amend resolution 0943, consideration and possible approval of resolution 1416, amending resolution 0943, allowing rental of town-owned house at 109 Sunset Street to a town public safety official. Mr. Morris Madrid, our HR director. Good evening, and thank you for being here.
Mr. Mayor, if I could give the council some history on this.
Please.
Back when we started the Chamisa Verde subdivision, one of the homes that was built there didn't sell, and so the town bought it for the purpose of having a police officer in the neighborhood of the Youth and Family Center. And so that house was set up so that we could have one of our police officers in there to add security to the area of the Youth and Family Center. We, by the way, happen to have a deputy sheriff who lives in that neighborhood, so it wasn't really necessary then for us to have this for that. So the town has used that in different ways to provide for public safety. And so this resolution just amends the original resolution, which was that it would be a police officer.
Okay.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Councilor Peralta is correct. What we have on the agenda tonight is more of a housekeeping item. As we have gone through the process of hiring an emergency communications center director, the relocation and offer of employment included temporary occupancy of that house. At the time that we were going through this process, we didn't realize that there was already a resolution in place that was specific for a police officer. Therefore, we want to make sure that we're in compliance with everything that's on the record and make this change to allow for the temporary occupation of the house by the new Emergency Communications Center director. And the governing body has been involved throughout this process, so I think this is fairly straightforward, Mayor and Council.
Councilors, questions, comments, concerns? We have a motion to approve. We have a second.
I'll second.
And a second. Any further discussion?
Just to make clear, I had another meeting with Oscar and the new E911 person, Amity. Do you want to wave your hand? Or so this is another opportunity for perhaps county and town collaboration. Amity is coming into our little E911 fiasco, kind of becoming more and more aware of what a maelstrom it's been. And we are going to work through this problem. And luckily, Amity is kind of bringing a calmness and sensibility to the issue. In order for her to be able to afford to move her 3 children and family from Washington to here, and in view of the budget constraints that the town is facing, the town had to kind of sweeten the deal, where she had been accustomed to, I think, making $70,000 a year. I hope that's not inappropriate for me to bring up. She's taking a pay cut. And in lieu of that cut, we are giving her housing at Chamisa Verde. Amity also understands that as we move forward with our command center situation, that it is going to change in some fashion, and she's willing to work with the town and the county to try and make sure that we, the people, are protected when we need the chief out at the house for a domestic violence situation, or we need to get to the hospital for some reason. So we will work through this fiasco, but what is comforting for me as a counselor to know is that Amity's on board. Previous council has been long on record trying to get a director over there, and so now we have that person. And if I'm hearing things correctly, all the town is doing here is just trying to make it right with kind of a salary in lieu of, kind of like the way things were done 150 years ago when we weren't a cash economy and we traded corn for beans. So Amity's trading greenbacks for housing. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm very much in favor of this move and grateful for Amity's willingness to take a chance with us.
Thank you, Councilor. We do have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? Not. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Want to welcome you aboard. I know you're going to bring if you want to come up, no, I just want to commend you. I did, notice that you did have a number of credentials behind you. It's good to know that hopefully the staff there will be able to be trained and maybe have the same credentials. It was important to me to see that you had the credentials in the event. I can't remember the acronym again. In the event somebody was having an issue or a heart attack, and you were able to walk somebody through on the telephone to give CPR. And I know there's an acronym for.
It's okay. It's EMD.
Okay, so I thank you. I think that's important to our community. People know that, if they call and, eventually we'll have people trained that can walk you through CPR and in the event somebody's having an issue and actually get that help that we are needed. So welcome aboard and thank you.
Thank you all for the opportunity.
Welcome.
Councilor?
I'd like to welcome you too. Thank you for coming to Taos. I mean, it's very much appreciated. And it has been the vision of myself, and I know Councilor Peralta, that we do get each and every one of our dispatchers trained with regards to EMD and getting them up to speed. I mean, in an instance where you're not there, that we do become a full-service dispatch center. I mean, I think the thing is, a lot of people envision picking up the phone in the event of a crisis like that, and getting somebody on the other line and us not having that ability would be pretty frustrating. And so we're grateful for you, and thank you for coming aboard.
Appreciate it.
Councilor Peralta?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm also very pleased to welcome you aboard, and there have been some concerns within the community about the quality of our dispatch, and with you coming on board, we're looking forward to being able to, how should I put it, make it a much more efficient operation and be more responsive to the community as they expect us to do. And this is something we've been talking about for over a year, and I'm glad to see it finally happening so that we can answer some of the concerns that the community's been having, because having a full-time director there is going to make it a lot different, and your credentials are very important to us.
Thank you.
So, thank you. You wish to make a statement? Or?
Good. We'll let my actions speak for me. We'll see what you guys think in a year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So next item will go to upgrade to Sleuth computer system, discussion and possible direction to staff regarding the upgrade of the Sleuth records management system and computer-aided dispatch system. Chief Weaver.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm coming to you tonight to talk about the Sleuth upgrade and actually what we're trying to do. The Sleuth upgrade is designed to convert the records management system and the computer-aided dispatch system from our current version 9 to version 10. This upgrade has been on hold since fiscal 2012. When I took office in July, Chief Koch had already been in the process, and they were beginning the process of doing the upgrade. On January 28th, the council gave direction for us to initiate the upgrade for the RMS and for the CAD, for the police department and for the dispatch center. The preparatory work is now completed, and we're at a critical milestone to determine if you want to approve the continuing work plan on this topic. Some of the reasons why we wanted to upgrade: we know that version 9 that we're in, at some point in time, they're going to stop supporting version 9. I've yet to get a specific date on when that support will stop, but I've been told that it's relatively imminent. The second reason why I want the upgrade is so that we would be able to get training done to our staff. One of the problems that I've had in trying to move the department to a data-driven organization, one of the problems that we've had is that our training on the entry into the record management system has degraded throughout the years. And so I have data being entered in all sorts of different ways by the officers. If we go to the upgrade, there's a training component that actually will get everyone on the same page. This is truly pretty critical for me in creating a data-driven organization. As it stands right now, when I look at the crime data that I'm able to pull from Sleuth, I'm really having a very difficult time in quantifying and sometimes believing it. Some of the reasons are that in the actual description of the report, the officer and the dispatchers have a wide variety of capabilities of putting different descriptors in there, and then when it comes into the charging documents, they actually have to normally go just by state statute, sometimes by municipal statute, and many times that causes an incongruity when it comes to the title of what the offense is. There's also a couple other issues that we've had with sleuth that I can go into further if you would like when I get done with this. The current cost to upgrade the sleuth for the police department is $21,100, and for the emergency communications center was $22,095. That was the contract to get the upgrades done, and in preparation for it, the information technology from the town of Taos has already expended $7,700. That money was expended on a server, and there is some argument that we would have needed to get the server anyhow, but we specifically got it for the upgrade. Turns out that was actually a pretty good purchase for us to make anyhow. But nonetheless, that's a price that we normally attach to this upgrade. Some of the benefits for us to upgrade, I've talked a little bit about right now, is just a better data collection and input and an analysis of the crime trends in our community. With that, I'll have a better capability of using our manpower. One of the things that we did early on was we had officers on 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. shifts. We went through and determined when the highest volume of crimes had been, and we actually rotated one officer to hit that area. So we actually, in essence, have 3 different shifts going throughout the day. We just kind of powered it up where we had a higher crime rate. Once again, with the data that we have already entered, am I truly hitting that spot? And I don't know. I think I am. But with the upgrade, I would probably be better able to fine-tune that in. Another benefit to this is that this upgrade will strengthen the department's capability of doing inventory and evidence control. We are moving into accreditation for the department, and a big stumbling block for many departments is evidence control, and how we theoretically, when we bring evidence in, we should have a time frame as to when that evidence goes out. And we've been working on that for a number of years. We are consistently doing destruction orders as we go, but this gives us a capability of actually having a smooth transition with the evidence and with the accountability. And then also with the Department of Property, we can actually integrate that into the upgrade as well. For the dispatch side, we're finding that the entry for the dispatchers is a little bit easier. Now, the dispatchers, I mean, you talk about a thankless job, someone that really has to multitask. The dispatchers are really critical for the data that I need to collect. If they enter the information in timely and do it very, very succinctly, that shows all the way down the line. Now, with the improvement that we have inside here, the sleuth upgrade, what happens is the sleuth is constantly doing a background check on residences and on names and on vehicles. So this backgrounding is constantly moving. So if dispatchers are dispatching an ambulance to a particular address, and if that address has a weapons flag on it, that will pop up so the dispatcher can inform the EMS crew that that home had weapon involvement at some point in time in the future, in the past. The dispatchers also have a capability of directly entering in their own flags, their own particular issues on an address that they might know about. Some other benefits that aren't listed on the slide is that the upgrade also has the capability to integrate with a system that's called Index. There's a move throughout the country that's being pushed by the FBI for agencies to actually make their records available to other agencies. And so Index is a capability where we'd be able to submit all of our records into the system, and agencies that are joined with it can gain access to our records as well. Also, this has an enhanced reporting capabilities, so it has an ability to actually pull out the graphs and pull out the exact element pieces that I want, kind of visually displayed a little bit better. So now some of the further benefits with this is right now, as we stand for the police department, and also I believe for the emergency communications center, this actually appears to be the most cost-effective option at this time. The Spillman quote that we have for the police department only, was $242,000. and that was for the base Spillman. We also went and approached a company called Caper. Caper came up, yes, sir.
This
Go ahead,
Spillman
Counselor.
is only the police department. It does not include the dispatch center, correct?
That'd be correct, sir. And also, when we talk about the base price, anytime we talk about any base price on any record management system, we're not talking about where they have to build the citations or they have to build the report template inside of the system. So this is just the base of it. And Capers actually did $100,000. Theirs came with RMS and with CAT, so the dispatch and for the police department. One of the big concerns that I have with converting to a different record management system is that there is an additional expense for the conversion of the data, and we also run a risk of losing data. Now, to be completely transparent, when we do the upgrade, there's also a possibility that we could lose some data in the upgrade as well, and that's been part of this process where Sleuth has actually done testing. They've actually retrieved some of our data, have converted it and gone forward with it. And also in preparation for this, I've had my staff, the records staff, really go through our system and try to get rid of redundant information. So we cleaned up the system as much as we could. I know the IT department has done the same thing. So for the upgrade, I feel pretty confident that we won't really lose significant amount of data. Yes, sir.
Counselor? Chief, if I could, with regards to that testing, that two-way testing that's going back and forth, has there been lost data in that? There has not been anything?
Not to my knowledge, sir. No, sir.
Thank you.
And right now, we're at 50% of the completion. They've already gone through all their work to do that, and from what I understand, everyone's feeling pretty confident about the capability of transferring this.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So there we have it in the nutshell. And I want to keep this real brief. If you have any questions, obviously, I hold myself accountable to you. To my understanding, there's probably three options that we have. The one is to continue to do the upgrade. The second is to cancel the contract. If we cancel the contract, we have already expended $21,000. So for us to cancel the contract right now, we would be at $21,600. And then the final would be to delay the upgrade. When I talked to Sleuth yesterday, when I asked him what would happen if we delayed this for a couple weeks or whatever, and the answer was that in the training queue would be pushed back. So I asked him if we delayed 2 weeks, what would that mean to us? And I was told that'd be at least a 6-month delay in the queue. And so that's where we're at. So I'm actually looking for council direction on where you would like us to go with this.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Just for the council members, the incoming mayor and council, I've been extremely critical of the police department with regards to data and tracking of data, just so that you're aware. Because I've been approached by several constituents that have always asked, well, with regards to what's plaguing this community, how do you know? Mm-hmm. If there's not a true data system in place that says, these times of the year, there's fluctuations, what are we doing? So I kind of pushed the envelope with Chief Weaver in asking him to make the police department a more data-driven organization. As we all know, data doesn't lie. The proof is in the numbers. So I would, certainly ask that we continue with the sleuth upgrade because it's what's here and what's in the present, and to not lose the $21,600 that we've already expended towards it. Chief, I'm extremely grateful that you've heard, for one, at least my concerns with regards to if we don't know where we're going, we don't know what we're tracking, we don't know what we're doing, we don't know what's bothering us.
Exactly.
So when constituents come to us, ultimately we're the people they can reach out and slap if something happens.
Yeah, exactly. And when I took office, I was given direction by Councilor Gonzalez, but also by Mr. Rodriguez, and it was made very, very. I think part of the interview process between Mr. Rodriguez and I was that we were on the same sheet of paper. We do have a capability of doing predictive law enforcement. We have the capability. And really, in the big picture, there's a number of things that I want to come into play with the sleuth upgrade, we've also applied to the Bureau of Justice for what's called their National Training and Technology Cooperative Agreement going in there. There's been a couple pieces of this pie that we're trying to put together, and along with cooperation with the tribal and dealing with the state police, had some email exchanges right now. We really can't get a good handle on the crime until we have a real good handle with the data that we're collecting. And that's really where we need to go. And so that's the stage that we're at now, sir.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just ask one more question of the chief. Chief, with regards to our officers, and I mean, even just percentage-wise, how many have attended FLETC or have been through FLETC and just the Federal Law Enforcement Training Academy?
Actually, none have gone to either Glencoe or in Artesia. To my knowledge, none. I don't believe. I think we've had one that went to the National Academy.
And Mr. Mayor, Chief, if it's something that we can do within, the future, I think it's imperative. I was there this last week just with regards to capability and what's taught and what's trained there, and it's almost minimal with what we would put out, and that's just pretty much getting them there.
Right.
And they handle everything else, all the other training, which, brings them up to speed, not only with regards to what's happening on the law enforcement forefront, but also with regards, it gives them an 11-week full-blown training in public interaction and engagement and how to properly engage with the general public from irate to belligerent.
Right. There's actually, and one of the focuses on the budget that we just went through with the police department, the big focus that I have on the budget for this upcoming fiscal year has been dues and tuition and per diem. I've really been focusing on equipment this year, and we're in the process of purchasing some more equipment right now. And next year, I really want to focus on the education. Homeland Security has a number of free schools that we can send our people to. FLETC has a number of schools, so that actually is a component. And that, once again, was one of the things I was hoping for. Bureau of Justice came in, which is starting to look good again. That's part of their aspect is the technology and also the training to go into it. So my hope really is that we'll be entering into this next year where we'll really be pushing information, really be pushing education on the officers, making them accountable, making them understand predictive law enforcement and their capabilities of really being able to focus their energies. If I have an officer who's just driving around without really any goal, that's really kind of been proven to be kind of counterproductive. And if we know in a particular time, a particular day, a particular hour, that they need to be in an area, that's where I want them to be. Now, the downside is this. If we go through and get all this data, and then if we're able to predict that on Monday afternoon between 2 o'clock and 6 p.m., there should be a high dollar value shoplifting, and so I move officers into that area, and the shoplifting doesn't happen, well, now I don't have a crime event. So how do you prove that interaction, the causative part of that? And the way they do that is by having all the data that we have right now and then implementing an action and see if we have a decrease in the crime. And that's where we're trying to focus to. And also with the Bureau of Justice, obviously, the town of Taos cannot do this without state police, without the county, without tribal. All of us have to interact with each other. So that's, the long-range goal is to really have us all involved in this.
And you finished, Councilor? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Chief, and that's kind of the heartburn a little bit that I have is, we have spent some money already to get this far. And I don't think we have a clear direction where we're going. At this point, we just hired a new 911 director. We've put out a lot to get her here. I don't think she's had any input on this. I know I want to give our police department every tool that they need to combat crime, to be able to, this is not in place at this time, but I don't think, if by an additional expenditure of $21,000, if we decide to go next week in a different direction and join partners with the county or some collaboration and we use a different system, not only will we be out the $21,000 that we already spent, but we'd be additional $21,000 that we will spend today. So that's my comment. Again, I want to give the police department every avenue they need to combat crime, but yet we want to, it's not something that's been in place yet, and they haven't been able to see any benefit from it. But, you know, that's just my outlook, so. Counselor?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, Chief, just give us a little bit more explanation. The 21,000 that's been expended so far, is that in addition to the 50,000 that we have to spend to put both the 911 center and your department in place, or is this part of that $50,000 expense?
This is the 50% mark for both the CAD and for the RMS. So for us to finish the upgrade for the police department and the dispatch will be a total expenditure of another $21,000, or $21,062.
Okay, because the 7,700 has been spent on the receiver, or the...
on the server.
Okay, so just to make sure that we understand what we're talking about here, it's only it's only another $21,000 in one way of looking at it.
Yes, sir.
But I think I agree with the mayor that maybe this is an opportunity for our director to see how she feels about the system, and if she likes it or doesn't like it.
Absolutely.
Because I think the both of you working together has to make it work.
And again, one of the things that I'd like to see is that, you know, the sheriff's department, the police department, the fire, the ambulance are all on one system, so that they share that that material, or that, because, you know, if we have a fire in a house and it comes up on the screen, it was a Met house, the fire department knows that they want police presence before they arrive there. So if that house blows up because of the Met that's in there, then we have that opportunity. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor,
if I could interject one more comment, just real quick. We have Deputy Manager Mr. Bellis here, and just with regards to county direction, as with regards to how they're going in their own dispatch uniform and what you guys are looking at implementing. Is it the Spillman Technologies? Because my concern, Mr. Mayor, is the $240,000 that we are looking for just police department upgrade, and obviously the city cannot stomach that.
Yeah, actually, we've met with the chief, and I think he's made the comment that that's great. It's the Cadillac to go with Spielman, but who can afford the Cadillac? And I understand his position. But at the same time, in our negotiations with Spielman, they have indicated that they'd be willing to give to the smaller municipalities the licensing for free. And in the case of the town, we never got that far, unfortunately, because of our other relationships. But that it would be at least a substantial discount. That the way it's being designed right now is, if there should be a merger of software and communications, the county would bear all or most of that cost as part of its initial construction.
And I guess, Mr. Mayor, my concern would be is that substantial to me would be 50%. Even at 50%, that's $110,000, which is still too rich for the city to stomach. Now, if it can be in light of around the tune of what we're talking to, and still not lose any capability of what we'd be gaining with Sleuth, I'm all for it, Mr. Mayor. Again, my biggest concern is where we sit with regards to that dollar figure.
If I might add, Mayor, Councilman, our initial quote that we had gotten was between $600,000 and $1 million, and our eyes kind of popped out of our head, too. We have recently gone to an RFP, and by combining, I can't say who's going to win, but by combining the equipment through Motorola and Advanced Communications and packaging the software, our cost has dropped down below $400,000 to do the package, and we've cut about 35% overall on the equipment prices too. So just based on that, I would say, you know, the thing with Spielman is, and again, because we're in competition, I can't say too much, and I don't mean us, I mean the RFPs are still out. They're very desperate. They held a special meeting and brought everybody to Albuquerque and gave out all sorts of toys and stuff. They really want a presence in New Mexico to convince the governor and her system and DOT's system that's going in that Spillman is the way to go, and I think we're going to see some significant discounts. And I would just ask, if we're this close, and the RFP from the county has actually already been decided, if you would give us a week to talk to Spillman and see what kind of price they'd be willing to package this at and come back to you.
and I'm okay with that.
Stay there for a second.
Okay. Counselor Hahn, and then we'll get
Well,
to...
I'll defer to Councilor Peralta for a second and just,
Okay.
Go ahead.
My question to you, Rick, is that if I remember correctly in some of the conversations that were taking place with the county as far as Spellman was concerned, is that I understood that there was going to be a request for the town to participate in the portion that went to the command center cost for Spellman. And still, we would have the cost for the town police department on the side, or the town's portion on the side, and so would other participants in the JPA. Now, is that changed, or with the cost coming down? I don't know. I'm just asking the question because it's been a while since we've had those conversations.
The goal of the county in our last negotiations was that the smaller communities, the Red Rivers, the Ski Valleys, the Cuestas, would get the licensing of Spielman, not just at the communications center, that the county would bear that, but the licensing at their police, fire, EMS would be free. The only entity we weren't sure about was the town, because of, as the chief has indicated, you actually have records that have to be transposed over, and you have specific forms that you use. The other smaller municipalities basically use the state forms. So I don't have a definite answer for you on that.
Okay. So my question then to the chief is the $240,000 or so that you indicated would cost the town for that, was that just the licensing, or is there something else in there that the town would have to purchase?
In that was the installation and the licensing. It didn't include conversion of the data. To my knowledge, it didn't include the conversion, nor did it include the buildup of the citations or the records inside of it.
Okay, I'm just trying to get apples for apples here.
Now, and then also, I mean, and the gentleman is correct. These systems are very much in competition with each other, and you know, we can swing deals left and right. For instance, when we initially got this going, my goal was to have police department, ECC, the jail, and the sheriff's department, and we were able to work a deal with Sleuth to where the county would be out $80,000. So in essence, the city was going to pick up the police department, the ECC, and then half of the jail. And that was just by kind of bickering and putting people in competition. So there are deals to be made. For me, where I'm standing right now, I have a bird in the hand. I have an ability to begin this training and be done with this by the end of this month. So the training would begin on March 24th, be done the 28th. We've invited the county to have representatives inside the sleuth training with us so they could do an evaluation of that system as well. I know it's $21,000, and I know this isn't a small amount of money, and I don't know when the county is going to do the transition. So if it turns out that we do get together and we do go Spillman, that's fine. I've worked with Spillman before. It's a fine system. It really is very intuitive. It's almost kind of window-based and kind of very simple to understand. But in the meantime, I still have this data that I can collect. And I don't know if I can put a price tag to that. We've been waiting since July without it. And quite frankly, I'm a little bit antsy. I want to get on with doing law enforcement. I want to be able to get the data. So,
okay. Mr. Mayor, if I could, Rick, in this week or so that you're talking about being able to come up with some information, would that be the total package for all the participants in order for us to weigh the differences?
Yes.
So for us to postpone a week or two would not hurt you?
well, it'll throw us off in the queue. So if we decide to go forward, instead of doing the training in the end of March, it'll probably be the end of April, beginning of May. That's
so it's not like years down the road or anything like that?
It's 6 weeks down the line. It's, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Councilor Hahn?
Thank you, Mr. Bellis, and thank you, Chief, and thanks for all of your officers' efforts.
Yes, sir.
I think collaboration is the key, and if all we're talking about is a week or two, that we give the county a chance. And I would encourage and it seems like you've already been doing this, to talk with Mr. Bellis and your compatriots over there. It seems to make a lot of sense to all be on the same system.
No, absolutely.
So, thank you, sir. Really appreciate your effort.
Absolutely. Thanks, sir.
So, what is the wishes of the board now?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I would suggest that we table this item to the next regular meeting.
We do have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll make a motion on that.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Under
Any
dis-
further discussion?
Under
Commissioner
discussion,
Gonzalez?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Gonzalez?
If we put this out, Chief, 2 weeks to our regular next council meeting, would that put you into your quote-unquote busy season? I mean, does the summer typically pick up for you as it does other?
It does. I mean, during the summer, we start having special events start kicking in and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, we'll start moving into that area.
Could you?
July is really when it starts hitting us pretty good.
We're talking about May.
I would ask, so are we still okay on that May, June target date then, if we're?
I believe so, sir. If we put this off up to about 2 weeks, I was told that would throw us back 6 weeks, so we're talking a 2-month delay.
If you would do me the favor of, within the next couple weeks, just kind of monitoring that with Sleuth.
Yes, sir.
If you start to see that go out, months now, could you bring that back up? And Mr. Mayor, we could maybe indulge a special meeting with regards just to sensitivity of getting it and afford Mr. Bellis the week and the county the week that they need to do that as well.
Okay. So we do have a motion. We have a second on the floor and a recommendation. So, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Motion carries. So
Mr. Mayor.
item F. Thank you,
Thank you,
Chief. Recommended budget priorities for fiscal year 2014-15, discussion and possible direction to staff on current budget priorities, guiding the preparation of the draft budget for fiscal year 2014-15. Ms. Marietta?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, as I mentioned earlier to Councilmember Hahn, that it would be better, I think, for us to take this into a special meeting to discuss the total budget. The next preliminary budget, or I should say not preliminary, but the draft budget is due in April.
Yes.
So we have some time between now and then to have a special meeting so that you have an opportune time, and I mean enough time, to really discuss the budget and its priorities for you to get a real understanding of what that is, because we can't do it tonight in half an hour or an hour and a half. I think it's going to take probably half a day for you to get your hands around what all these numbers mean and be able to give the staff also your recommendations if they may differ from what we were talking about going forward. So I would suggest that we look at a special council meeting to discuss that sometime in the next week and a half.
2 weeks. Councilor, would it be a regular meeting or would it be a work study type?
Well, it'd be a regular meeting, but
Okay.
but it's still, anytime we have called a meeting, it's a regular meeting. I mean, in the sense that to be a special meeting is not on the schedule.
Okay.
But it would be a meeting to discuss the budget, just like we had our retreat on the budget a couple of weeks ago. But it would give you an opportunity time to really sit down and go through the numbers and get your questions answered.
Councilor Hahn?
Mr. Mayor, councilors, what I would like to do is listen to Mrs. Fambro and Town Manager Rodriguez. They have a prepared report. I think that'll serve as a starter. And then I totally agree, Councilman Peralta, I would like to have a work study scheduled and perhaps involve department heads at specific times, or however Town Manager Rodriguez and you feel it will work best. Thank you.
Right, please.
The purpose of this presentation is to explain to you what is in the department heads and in the department's minds as they prepare the budgets. You have been seeing me meet with the department heads right now to make sure they understand the instructions and get basic numbers, and so they're going through all the calculations for that. And so that document is moving forward right now. I think even with a couple of weeks notice before we present to you the draft budget, we can make some adjustments. But we just think it's very important for you to hear it now, so there's no surprises and you know exactly what's happening. If along the way then you give us input that would help us then make our adjustments, that would be helpful even right now. And so first of all, I just want to point out to you the 5 top priorities that were given to us by the council. You'll see them all there. The central, consolidate operations and central communications, annexation to the airport, planning, continue to stabilize and consolidate the changes we made in the planning department, the Crosswinds runway, and then a new one. Actually, this was not on the top 5. It wasn't the top 10. But a new one, affordable housing. That's what they communicated to us are the top priorities. So as we budget, as departments are preparing their budgets, they take those things into account. And so just to make real clear to you, for example, item number 2, annexation to the airport, unless we're told differently, then we start putting resources in there to litigate that. Anyway, so just so you know what's going in there, what's driving our department. Now, the next thing, I just thought I'd show you, the way we start our budget is with a 5-year forecast. We come to the council and we tell you, look, based on the information that we have, based on some basic assumptions that we recommend to you, this is the way that budget would look for the next 5 years. And then a couple of things here I would just point out to you. For example, you'll notice under total revenues, right there, you see the number, if we adjust it for inflation, you see that number doesn't change very much from where it is currently to where it would be in the future. So there's not much change, and that is because a little bit more than 90% of our total revenues come from gross receipts tax, which is a picture of a lopsided financial picture to where you're very dependent on those revenues. So if those revenues don't increase, your whole budget doesn't increase. Property taxes are a little less than 9% of the total. And so there's just not a lot of things that drive that revenue growth. Obviously, then what we've done is curtailed our expenditures towards that, and so there's just, we stay balanced. But I just want to point out that over the next 5 years, we don't foresee that there's a lot more resources coming in, not many resources coming in. This is a graph that I shared with the council last year. Previously, we were headed on the town was headed in a course of insolvency almost, where revenues were going down continually and dramatically. Actually, we've clipped off a couple of other years. Revenues used to be much higher than that. In fact, if you saw the previous 2-3 years, you would see that the revenue figure was much higher, and then it went down, and then went down again. Meanwhile, expenditures, although having gone down for some time, then started to go up. And so last year we made that correction, or rather in this budget year, the council made that correction. There were a lot of cuts. There were a lot of limitations to expenditures, including no increase to the employees. And so that picture then was stabilized. And so what you see then from the current year forward is two parallel lines, revenues just above expenditures, but not a lot. Some of the budget questions that we asked the council as we went to prepare the budget, along with recommendations, we said, look, we think these are the kinds of things that the realities that we need to take into account include. For example, we recommended an assumption of a 2% revenue growth next year. This year it was a 1% revenue growth, and it turns out it's going to be higher. We're not quite 2%, but it turns out it's going to be a little bit higher than that. We're recommending next year a 2% revenue growth, and also a 1.6% inflation. So, which means that there's just not going to be a lot of difference. We were also recommending that we stay at a 15 days worth of a balance. Current budget, by the way, I just want to make clear, there's two different kinds of balances. One is all the savings that you have against your current budget, On that basis, we're like 64 days, something like that, in terms of the cash that we have available. In other words, current cash, the money we expect to get in this year, as well as savings from prior years, just in the operating budget, some 60, what is it?
Probably close to 65 days right now.
Okay. And so, but in the current budget, we were saying just 50 days. I would recommend it that's pretty conservative. I mean, that's conservative enough. And so, and that's what the council accepted. Also, another assumption was no new programs, nothing new. No significant increases to current programs, increases in service levels, things like that. The other thing is a lower parking meter revenue. Last year, we projected over $200,000. There have been some policy changes that are going to make us scale back those revenue projections. Also, the other one was a phased airport project. At that time, even a few weeks ago, we thought that we were looking at a 3-phase project, and so the $350,000 we thought was sufficient. We have since learned that apparently there's been a big change, and now there's only going to be 2 phases, and so therefore what we have to put in there this year is higher. Also, that E911 continues as is with no significant changes, at least through fiscal year 2014-2015. In other words, that the time that we would see a different revenue structure or cost structure there would be starting in the next fiscal year, some 12, 14 months from now. Another significant decision that we put in front of the council and the council approved was then to assume that our recurring costs, the costs that we have put in, that we have borne for the last 2 years with the Taos Sports Alliance, then just be accepted as a recurring cost. Now, this is a significant change because up until now, we had been treating it as a one-time cost. In other words, we would pay for it through prior year savings, not through the current year. And so, the big challenge to that is that if once we accept it as a recurring cost, it's going to be with us for from now on. Is that we have to cover it with the extra reserves. In other words, that with that 1/12, in this case, with the extra 50 days, and so it is a significant would be a significant cost for us. And that, by the way, that would include also the maintenance of the park. And I guess at this point, we're looking at the total of that would be
$145,000 between the maintenance of the park and the management of the contract itself.
So the idea is that we have to find the space within the current budget of $150,000. Up until now, we've been paying for that through prior year savings and didn't have to make space in the current budget. We put that in front of council.
Councilor Gonzalez has a question.
Mr. Mayor, fellow councilors, and one of the reasons, under the recurring costs of the Taos Sports Alliance was because under the previous mayor and council, we all felt that because we had built the eco park, we were committed to its viability as well. And we also felt that it deserved a long-term plan of viability. In other words, it operates under the purview of the city, but as a benefit direct to the city. And my biggest concern with that was that we didn't, build a $2 million structure to let it become dilapidated by lack of use or a non-managing entity that was taking care of it. So that was one of the reasons that it was set up as council priority, was to make it a recurring cost so that it wasn't a line item budget every time that they had to come back. And again, with the purview and the business plan that we asked them for was to come up with a plan to at some point become a self-sufficient entity via advertising, via sporting events, everything else that they have involved. So just a little bit of history with regards to that line item as to why council felt it was best to make it recurring, at least until the point where they are up and running.
And then the other item we pointed out to the council as at least a budget priorities, and that is to catch up with deferred maintenance. There are 2 dimensions to that. One is the employee compensation, and the other one is just regular old maintenance, potholes, repairs to infrastructure, et cetera. And so we're going to talk to you then about the 2 different dimensions here. One is the employee pay plan. What we did is we put together a committee of employees to see if they could recommend together how we would use, if we had some extra money, how we could use that money. Anyway, I'll defer to our finance director here, who was working very closely with those employees.
So what you see in front of you is a current, a picture of a current step and years of service for all the employees. So all the yellow is where people are at, and the red is the equity gap compared to the years of service that they've been with the town.
And the black line is where they should.
And the black line is where they actually should be on years of service. So if you see here, 0 to 25 years. And so what you can see here is a lot of the employees coming in new are coming in way above where some of our existing employees have been here for 20, 25 years, 15 years. And so what the plan is doing is not quite a 3% across the board. It's a compensation to levels of people that have been here longer, some, for years. But in the next slide, you'll see.
And to use an old fireman's adage here, put the green stuff on the red stuff.
So in doing what we did do, I think this is taking into account of what we're planning to do, and you'll see the third slide coming down. We've cleaned up some of that equity gap for some reason. Oh, here we go. So now you can see some of this red is being filled in with that first year of these changes on this compensation plan that the Morale Committee has been working on.
So in other words, what's being proposed in terms of an employee increase will only clean up that much red.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, real quick, Marietta, Oscar, with regards to this, and I know we had discussed reevaluating the benchmarks as to where they were at within terms of service, if those benchmarks were set too high, if it was almost an unattainable, reach based on years of service. Did we evaluate that? Did we look at that to kind of bring them back more into check with regards to phases and steps as to how they were getting those increases?
Go ahead.
These do not show that, what council approved or wanted us to change. We've just are showing what we currently sent to you. We haven't made any changes yet. The next phase is going to look at all these job descriptions. That's going to probably be the next year's phase. Look at these job descriptions. Some employees may have taken on more duties, have never been reevaluated, and check on those grades and steps at that time. And Morris, I don't know if he's already gone, but that's one of his priorities, and I guess he's back there, to do that, under his direction.
But you're very correct. Over time, the things that change are what people actually do. And so it could very well be that once we looked at those very carefully, some people are better off, some people are much worse off than what that shows. And so, no, sir, to answer your question directly, this does not do that. It just gives you, and in fact, this is not so precise a picture that we could tell you this is exactly how it would look, because, when the time actually happens, things will change. All this is trying to give you a sense of the resources, the effect it would have on the inequities that are right now in the system.
And, that's not following with the plan for the last 4 or 5 years to bring those, consistently up with some kind of increase.
Well, and again, Oscar, my concern was that the employees that are already above equity, the new employees that are coming in, that we don't give increases up front to those guys and take care of the people that are below the equity line.
Yeah. Councilmember Gonzalez, yes, that will be taken care of. This just doesn't show that. We didn't want to recreate those for these, but that will be taken care of, and it has behind the scenes.
Okay.
So the direction they gave was that for those people who are above the equity line, above that black line, no increase.
All of those.
And all the resources be dedicated then to the people who are facing red.
Yes.
And the idea here too is that those who face the most red get a bigger increase than those who face a smaller red. And so therefore what you would be seeing is a plan where some people would get a significantly higher increase, whereas those some would get a significantly lower increase. For example, a 2% or less than 2%, versus some people who are facing lots of red would get even up to an 8%.
Right.
You'll see that in the next slide.
Councilor Peralta?
I'm done.
Oscar, a question I have for you on this one, and I'll go to the next slide. Is this just the general fund employees, or does this include the utility employees as well?
This includes all employees, every single fund, utilities, enterprise, central communications, and general fund, in this chart here. And we'll go to...
Because the next one, I believe, is only general fund employees, correct?
No, this includes all of the employees.
So the general fund ticket would be about $280,000, something like that.
Yes.
The reason I'm saying that is because if I look at this, you only got 25, 67, and 21 employees.
But if you have down here, it doesn't include, we have 61 employees that will only receive the 25%, 25 cents per hour. So it does include all of, those 61 are not part of these ones here. They're on their own.
The town manager is not in there, for example. The people who are already above the equity line, those numbers aren't there. And just to keep our census.
And the PD is not in there?
Right, and PD is not here because they are on a totally different system, and they're, as far as what that system requires in terms of where they should be on their step, we're on target with that. Okay.
So on this chart, it just shows exactly, right here on the cost is 41,000, I'm trying to find this stupid math, 41,670 for 25 employees or 14% of the workforce. And that includes less than 3 steps, and they're receiving 25 cents plus a 2%. On this next set is...
And just to be sure, excuse me, what you mean by less than 3 steps means that the equity gap for them is less than 3 steps.
Yes.
Okay, so the 61 employees down at the bottom is added to these numbers on top, correct?
Yes.
A total of 178 employees.
Okay, thank you.
And then the next one is just 67 employees of 39% of the workforce, and that equates to 170,287, and that's 3 to 13 steps, receiving the 25 cents plus a 4%. So this is the biggest section of the employees that, are out of their step and grade. This last one is 21 employees plus 12% of the workforce, and that's anybody than 13 steps, more than 13 steps. So between just more than 13 up to whatever they may be.
So these 21 employees are 13 steps or more out of equity. And how that happened,
Well, and yeah.
slowly,
Slowly, and changes of, compensation plans and not, on an annual basis. And I think Morris is, really headed in that direction to make sure that the plan stays active and continues going on with this. This is just taking care of 1 year, going up to 5 years. And even after the 5th year, we would never be equal to somebody that had been here 25 years to be paying them at 25. We just don't have the money to do that. I think we estimated over $1 million to get that to where really everybody should be. So that's just us.
So another way of looking at that is what the employees contributed to balance budgets to other programs over the last 4 or 5 years is over $1 million.
Right. So that's one part of what we call, just taking care of depreciation costs, and our employees in that sense are, it's a big majority of the budget and all the work that they do. So the morale committee did a really good, it was a mix of line employees, supervisors, and the director from Human Resources Director. So this next one is the other depreciation.
But the other part of deferred maintenance.
Deferred maintenance.
Yes, and so what you have here to give you a picture of just where we are with deferred maintenance, Councilman Hahn. All right. Well, anyway, I thought he would appreciate this picture here, and that is you have in the middle what we estimate to be the cost of depreciation. In other words, a reflection of how much maintenance is required to the infrastructure, right? In terms of the cost of depreciation, and you can see it's some $6 million a year, over time. And what we've put in our 5-year capital improvement program, you can see how much that the bottom part is repair and replace. So what we're actually spending towards, Councilman Hunt, I thought you'd appreciate this graph here that shows the cost of maintenance, what is the demand or the requirement for maintenance in terms of a cost of depreciation against how much is in our CIP, our capital improvement program, to repair and replace. In other words, to do that maintenance, potholes and patchwork and things like that. In comparison to what's in our capital improvement programs for new projects. So in other words, instead of maintenance, and that does include the airport? Or
yes, that does include the airport.
Yeah, which is why you see these big spikes. And so So you see sort of what the orientation of our capital program is, to sort of build new things and not so much to do repair. So the observations you have shared with me, I want to show you a picture of exactly that. And what you have here, just another way of looking at sort of deferred maintenance. You can see here in public works the quality of the streets and sort of two different scales. You can see what has been expended over the years for maintenance, for the maintenance budget, all right? And this is on the operating side, all right? And so you can see how it used to be, you know, over $200,000 a year, and then how in 2009 it went to zero, and even in 2010, French was explaining to me that it went to there, but that money was ultimately then used to match grants and things like that. And so over the since 2012, 2013, we started this year, we started to change that operating maintenance budget has been zero. So what you've been seeing intuitively out there, we're just putting numbers to it here, and that is correct. And so that part of what we communicated to the council, that hopefully we could start to change that. We got the nod, and so as the departments are preparing their budgets, they're going to be trying to address these things, and so you're going to see a higher maintenance budget.
Yeah, and just to, French does have some maintenance costs in his budget, in his operating budget, but not to the tune of what he needs for really repair and maintenance of some of the streets. He has, you know, resources to do the smaller potholes, but to do the main repairs or mill of the roads, that's the part that we don't have that big maintenance cost.
Yeah, and what you see with the bars here is the quality of the streets, and you can just see how it's a losing game. I mean, you pay some potholes because somebody famous asked for the pothole to be fixed, but meanwhile, the many other potholes that pop up, you know, in the next rain, et cetera, you know, there's just not enough resources or enough effort to try and take care of those. Anyway, so that's what the departments have going into their budget development process over the next couple of weeks. I'd love to get any input from you now, individually, later at a workshop as you need, so that you understand what we're doing.
Just one question, Marietta. I know that there was that increase in the $10 library card. I didn't see where, was it budgeted and then taken off, or?
Yes, if we, on that first slide where we showed the expected revenues, what we did take out is we did take out the library card fee. Okay. We took that amount out of there. We actually took out also, or we repurposed the marketing money that we were using in general fund, and now it all is going to be coming out of the lodgers tax fund because we have enough revenue sources in there. So we did take that out also out of the general fund revenues and expenditures.
So to make it real clear,
And
we had taken money from the general fund and added that to the marketing effort, but as a result of the marketing, you know, doing so well, we then took that money back into the general fund.
And when we meet in the workshop, we can go into more details, but that was already taken into consideration. And also 2% across the board for expenditures, knowing what the compensation plan looked like before we presented those numbers. So, you know, the only thing that came across at the council workshop was the reoccurring costs for the eco park maintenance and management contract. So, you know, once we put all the numbers together and we come back to say, we can do it all, we can do whatever it is. So those are the priorities that really affect the budget process.
Okay, thank you. So what is the wishes of the council?
No, I was just going to say, I guess it would just be up to the council as to when they have time to have a special meeting to go over the budget in detail.
Okay, let's set a date. I'd like to move that we have a work study, and can we pull out our calendars? Can we settle on a date right now? Generally speaking, the earlier in the day, the better. I'm not going to be flippant and suggest that we meet at 5:30 in the morning. But early is good.
Anytime works for me.
What's your schedule like, Marietta? Anytime you're saying?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Hahn, We are having budget meetings already scheduled every afternoon for the next 2 weeks. And I know that, I think we want to keep the departments on that schedule. So the mornings are free, just the afternoons.
Mary, if you just clarify that those meetings are internal meetings? This is just the
Yes.
staff trying to do basic
Yes,
calculations,
they're
not
just.
with the council?
No, not council meetings. I'm sorry. Yes, they're staff internally with Oscar, myself, and the departments that are presenting the budgets. So mornings, or we can adjust for your schedule. We can
So-
move meetings around.
Councilor Hahn, why don't we do, I mean, if it's okay with this council, we do March 20th at like 9 a.m.
What day is that?
That's a Thursday.
We have an internal controls training in Santa Fe on the 20th.
So
Sorry, I thought I was available. I just remembered. On the 19th, we have an audit rule committee, the audit rule training.
So why don't we do it the morning of our regular scheduled council meeting on the 25th?
The next council the 23rd, did you say?
25th.
25th. That's going to be hard for me to swing that one. This thing, yeah.
How about the day before on a Wednesday?
The 19th would work for me.
We can do the 19th.
Wednesday.
9 o'clock?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.?
Yep.
I will
Okay.
adjust my schedule.
And how much time should we block out, Mrs. Fambro?
Say at least half a day.
Till noon?
Till noon.
Till noon, and we'll reassess at that point?
Yes.
So work study the 19th at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Is that
Thank you.
motion to table till then, I believe? Or do we just call a special meeting?
This is just information,
yeah,
so
it's
it's, there's no.
non-action.
Non-action.
Work study, okay.
Thank you, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for all your information,
Hey,
Marietta.
real quick, Mr. Mayor, do we want to do that meeting here for presentation in case the public comes, or do you want to just do it at the executive training room?
Counselor, what was your suggestion?
Is this going to be publicized?
Yes.
Yeah,
Whenever the council meets, it is a
okay,
public
very good,
meeting.
Very good. So I suppose here, what if we have an overflowing crowd, eh?
We can set up in the middle with round tables.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd like that. I'm pretty uncomfortable in the days situation, whatever this thing is called.
Between now and then, if you've got any particular information, any particular format that you'd like the staff to follow, just go ahead and say that so that we can prepare accordingly.
Okay. Then we'll go on to, go ahead. Sorry, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor, just I'll bet you're already doing this, Mr. Rodriguez, but if it's possible, Marietta, for us to be aware of when the department head meetings are happening, so that maybe I could just come in and sit in the back and see how that's going and get a feel for what the department heads are seeing and wanting, and I'll bet you that's already on the calendar.
Yeah, they're already all scheduled, so we can just send invites. We'll send invites to you.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, so long as we don't get more than two.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
At a
well,
time.
if I see two other counselors, I'll go to Java.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and move on to item 8, public hearing, application.
Excuse me, Mayor and council members. There was a motion on the table to schedule that special meeting. I don't know if you wanted to have a second or just drop the motion.
So I'll second it.
Second.
Actually, okay.
Well, we don't need to.
You don't need a motion.
Motion to schedule.
We'll just
Councilmember
drop
Hahn
that
had made a
motion?
motion.
Yeah, drop the motion.
Yeah, drop the motion.
I didn't make a motion, I just asked.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, no motion on the floor. So we'll go on to public hearing, application for restaurant liquor license for Taos Ale House. Consideration and possible approval and application from Taos Brewing Company LLC, DBA Taos Ale House, located on 401 Paseo Pueblo Norte, for a new restaurant, beer and wine liquor license. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good
Council
evening.
Members. Manager Rodriguez, how are you?
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, Mayor and council members. I guess before you start the public hearing, I do want to mention, just as a point of clarification and in accordance with the state law, that publication requirements were met. And we had to publish this notice in the Taos News twice before this meeting. So that was met. And then also, Planning and Zoning did not need to give another approval because they already have a brewer's license in their location.
So everything has been,
Yes, all the requirements have been met, and this is actually only for a restaurant license. As I mentioned, there's already a brewer's license in that location, so this is a restaurant license where they can actually serve food and beer and wine as well.
okay?
Okay, thank
So
you.
it is,
If you need to hear more, we will give you more, but if you guys want to...
please, if you would.
Sure, okay. So I'm the representative on behalf of the Taos Ale House. Mr. Cook is the main owner here. He's been really struggling trying to...
Clerk, I was just going to ask, do they need to be sworn in?
No, they don't.
Okay, just,
But state his name.
if you'll state your
Oh,
name
I'm
for the
sorry.
record.
Justin Lee.
Yes, I'm sorry, Justin.
I just assumed you all knew me.
Yeah,
Just
we do,
kidding.
but for the record, just in case the clerk doesn't know.
So Mr. Cook here, he's been, struggling in the business model that he currently has, and that business model has been really specifically just selling beer. And the reason that he's just been selling beer for the most part is because in order to get a restaurant license and get a proper beer and wine license, you have to go through the process of actually having a kitchen. And frankly, we haven't had the money to do that until now. So Mr. Cook, for a long time, has been, just skating by and making it just selling beer. And we think that by putting a restaurant into this this business right across from the post office, that we're going to have a more successful model for Mr. Cook. To give a little background, if you want it, not that it's completely pertinent, but a small brewer's license in the state of New Mexico under the state law only allows a person to sell beers that are from within the state of New Mexico. So if you get a small brewer's license, you can brew your own beer, and you can only sell beer only from the state. So it kind of limits the options that you can provide to a customer. In order to get a beer and wine license and provide wines of varieties and beers from out of state that would really kind of enhance his business, you have to get a restaurant license. And 60% of your sales have to come from food, and 40% have to come from beer or wine. So it's a significant change in the business, and it was one that we frankly couldn't afford within the at this time until we got to the kind of the last leg of the business. And Mr. Cook was able to team up with a partner out of Kansas. His name is Robert Krause. He's an accomplished chef. And he actually started a business in Lawrence, Kansas called the Burger Stand. The Burger Stand is a highly successful business. It serves a lot of KU college students and KU fans that come to games there. We've both been to the business in Kansas and seen it and seen how successful it's been. And Mr. Cook really wanted that business to be a part of his business so that we could provide another option in this community. If you're not familiar with the location of where this is, it's right across from the post office in town. If you're also aware that we've had Graham's Grill just shut down, and we had Dragonfly also shut down recently. So we're trying to, in some ways, we're really offsetting some of the restaurant closures that have just recently occurred. At this point, because of our partnership with this business out of Kansas, we were able to raise a significant amount of money to build our kitchen. And the town, particularly Mauro Rosales, has been really helpful. Martha Perkins as well from the town has been really helpful and kind of guiding us through the building permit process, because in addition to getting a beer and wine license, you have to get the building permit approved, and that's not just through the town, that's through CID. All of our permits have been approved through CID. We've had EID over, and we're going through, like we had plumbing come in recently, we're going through electrical, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing that's really great, I think, from a local standpoint is that People's Bank, for example, has been really helpful in helping us get this project going. Mike Tarleton, who's the owner of the building, he happens to be a general contractor as well, which is really convenient for us, so he's been handling the contracting and really pushing this thing. The reason it's great also is because the building is owned by the general contractor, so he's spending a lot of time to make sure that it's built really properly. and that we have a good product coming out. The other person I got to thank real quick is Doug Patterson and his staff at LDG. They've been really, really helpful in helping us get the proper drawings to CID and communicating with Motto at the town. Now, while Mr. Cook is a small craft brewer, he brews his own beer. That's kind of his art. And we mainly serve the beer now. The project is really not about serving beer anymore as a main product. It's going to be a central focus of the business, but really what we're looking at really developing here is more of a well-rounded family-style restaurant. So it's not going to be, your bar. It's going to be a restaurant. It's going to have a bar, and it's going to allow Mr. Cook to continue to brew his craft beers and the art that he's chosen. The other thing that probably needs to be pointed out is we built a portal. I don't know if you've driven by there recently, but the portal went up literally in 24 hours through the general contractor that we used. We got that portal approved through the town through a variance, I believe, about a year ago. The general contractor and Mr. Cook had to come before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that got approved then. The business with Nuance Facts here, we have an 87-person occupancy. We hope to have that as full as possible. The burgers that we're going to be serving are priced between $7.50 and $9.99 is the price point on the burgers. There's going to be 8 styles of fries, and we're pretty excited about everybody coming and trying it. We estimate somewhere in the range of $2,000 a month in GRT to the community, to the town, based on our economic model of what we see as a price point and a number of people coming in. And we've got about 6 employees right now, and we visualize adding about 6 to 8 more employees. So it's a few more jobs for the community. So right now where we are is that if you were to approve this license, we would have to go back to the state for our final approval. They've already given us a preliminary approval. This is the Alcohol and Game Commission. We've already gone before them. We've presented everything. They've preliminary approved us. We go to you, and then we go back to the state, and then they would do our final approval. In order to get there, besides you approving it, we have to have EID, the environmental department, come in, make sure that our kitchen is compliant and proper, and then we would submit fingerprint cards, covered by the feds, and we have to send in pictures of the interior and the exterior. And at that point, we would have our beer and wine license, and we're right on the edge of we're looking at probably 3 weeks from now being done with all the building that's already been permitted by the town. So again, that's what we're asking for, is for you to approve this project as it stands. Thank you.
Councilors, questions?
Mr. Mayor, Justin.
Before we go on, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing, so if there's anybody in the audience who would like to speak for or against this application, anybody in the public that would like to speak for or against? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilor Hahn?
Justin and Mr. Cook. Mr. Cook, first of all, thank you for sitting through this torturous process. I would respectfully submit to you, Mr. Mayor, and the councils that when we can see on the agenda public hearings like this, that we move them straight to the top. And so I don't know how we go about doing that or what we need to do, but let's serve the public. Mr. Lee, 2 churches and a school. I'm presuming that P&Z has gotten the appropriate approval. Have you gotten any feedback, Mr. Cook or Mr. Lee, from the churches and school?
No, the original small brewer's license with the state requires that, if we are, I think it's within either 200 or 400 feet of a church or a school, then we have to coordinate with the church and the school and the state. We are not within that distance.
You're outside of the 300 feet, I believe it is.
Yes, we are.
So you're good that way.
Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't have my brewer's license.
Right.
I mean, I could have, but it would have been a little bit more difficult process to get.
Thank you. No other question.
Counselor Peralta?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Justin,
Yes.
by putting a beer and wine license in there, that means that you have to order food in order to get beer and wine. Does that change your operation, or can you still sell New Mexico beers on the bar without ordering food?
That's a really great question. You actually have to have both licenses in order to keep serving. It wasn't necessarily that you didn't have to have food with a small brewer's license.
Right.
You have to have some sort of food with a small brewer's license. It's just with the small brewer's license, we knew based on our model that without a kitchen, we couldn't reach the 60-40 model. So you're required under the small brewer's license to actually serve food. So there's not going to be a situation where we're going to stop serving food and you're going to shut down your restaurant, and then the bar is going to continue to stay open.
Okay, so you, regardless of what happens now, the operation has to have food service in it
It will have.
during the hours of operation?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Gonzalez?
Mr. Mayor, Justin, Mr. Cook, thank you for coming before us. And again, it is a painstaking process to sit till the end of the meeting to get your concerns heard. But I want to commend you and thank you, especially coming out of and we're not quite out of it, but an economic downturn. I applaud businesses that are willing to take on new ventures and continue to help grow this local economy. And to have local business people vested in this community, especially the city, means the world to me. So I want to thank you on my behalf, and thank you for taking the process and going through with it to actually not only enhance your business, but hopefully continue to make it thrive. So
Thank you,
thanks.
Council.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a
Counselor
comment.
Cantu?
I'm pro-business, and I think it's wonderful that you're going to be, well, GRT, we always need that, and employees, that you'll be putting more Taoseños to work is a wonderful thing. But all these hoops you've jumped through, all the documents, they're going to be on file just in case anybody ever
Yes.
questions you?
Required by the state, alcohol and gaming, to keep all this stuff on file.
Okay. Just a concern, because it slips once in a while.
And Justin, I think
Mayor.
one of the things that we've seen in the past is a required list of servers. Is that a licensed list of servers? Is that part of that criteria?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually emailed an updated list to Renee Lucero this afternoon.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that that was covered. So, okay, councilors, what's the wishes of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
We have
Second.
a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So, thank you, guys.
Do we
Welcome.
need to have a
Thank you.
roll-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Let's-
And good luck with the run here.
Thank you.
Mr.
Appreciate
Mayor,
it. Excuse me.
do we need to have one? Do we need to have a roll call, Renee?
A
on
roll
the
call
public
vote
hearing?
on that?
Yeah, let me do
Okay.
it for
You'll
public
call
hearing.
for the vote, please. Sorry.
Councilmember Han,
Yes.
Councilmember Peralta,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Cantu.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, go on to the number 9, last item on the agenda, matters from the mayor and council, youth council member, the newly elected officials institute, consideration and possible approval for myself and Councilor Cantu and possibly Councilor Han to attend the newly elected officials institute on March 22nd, 2014 in Albuquerque. Just come to you, it could have been approved, but I think it's important that our constituents know how we're spending their money. So I'm just asking for approval for the newly elected officials to attend this Leadership Institute program and actuals, I guess. Counselor?
Mr. Mayor, council members, I highly recommend you attend the newly elected Leadership Institute. Not only that, but continue to engage with New Mexico Municipal League. They also have what they call MOLI, which is the Municipal Officials Leadership Institute. And any further educational development that you can take on, I highly recommend you take it on, because the ever-evolving government continues to change. And unless we're changing with it and we're adapting to it, it doesn't behoove us to sit behind these seats and do injustices to our constituents. So any formal leadership training that comes up by, an accredited organization, especially one like the Municipal League, I highly recommend that we engage and we get everybody on board and up to speed with. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Further discussion? None? Do we need a roll call vote on this too? Or
No.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I have. We have a, Councilor?
Before we adjourn, Mr. Mayor, I have one other item that I need to discuss with the council, and that is I sit on the nominating committee for the hospital for board members, and there are 3 positions open up this year, 2 of which will not, the incumbents are not seeking to ask to be on the board anymore, and one of those positions is for the Taos Valley, and I would like to apply for that position. I've served on that hospital board for over 14 years in the past, and I think that my knowledge and experience would be useful to us in these coming times with the healthcare changes that are out there, and it's something that I've always been involved in and would like to be in again. So we need to replace my position on that nominating committee, because it is a position that's filled by a city council elected official.
Okay. So
And by the way, the meeting for the first meeting for the nominating committee is tomorrow at 4 o'clock at the hospital conference room.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate either, whichever one of you guys is willing to take it. Councilor Hahn or Councilor Cantu. Get your feet wet right away.
Councilor Peralta, if I heard you correctly, you're going to apply for a seat on the THS board.
Correct.
And what you're looking for is a replacement on the nominating.
Because it would be a conflict of interest for me to
Right.
sit on the nominating committee and then apply for a position.
Right.
There's about 3 meetings that will be taking place.
Right. So they don't have enough people on the nominating committee?
No, by bylaws, the nominating committee is made up of 1 member from the county, which is
Right.
Commissioner Blankenhorn. There's 1 from the town council, and then there's 2 or 3 others at large, and then there's like 4 from the board of directors that sit on the nominating committee, review all the applications, and make recommendations to the board for appointments.
Councilor Cantu?
Well, right at the moment, there's 4 organizations that are asking me to be involved with their boards, and I'm spread really thin.
This is, well, let me go back and explain.
It's very seldom, I think.
It's 3 meetings.
It's 3 meetings, maybe 4, between now and May, and then it's over for a year.
Right. So the problem I've got is I've got a client from 3 to 4, and then another one 4 to 5. So that would be difficult. Councilor Gonzalez?
Just yourself, Mayor.
I'll take it. If nobody else wants to take it, Mr. Mayor, I'll take it. I'll add to the.
Okay.
Well, it's, you know, it's not a question of want, and I apologize for being maybe a little bit flippant, but I think our hospital is very important. I'm very grateful that Councilor Peralta is there. I'm very interested in the inner workings of the hospital, as CEO Hofstetter will tell you. We've had numerous conversations. And I would really like to be involved, but Councilor Gonzalez, it can't come at the expense of a client, if you know what I mean. Thank you for taking this on.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Do you want to nominate?
All right, so I'd love to nominate Councilor Gonzalez to fill this position, and also would like to really put out a hand of gratitude and commitment to our local hospital and all the folks that work there. And again, another collaborative venture awaits us.
Do we have a second to that nomination?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So you will be serving on that, in that capacity.
For 3 meetings.
Counselor. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Anything else from the councilors? Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
Oh,
Probably didn't
no
give you an
problem.
opportunity. Give us an update.
I'd just like to say that, we've had a really good sports season year.
Yes.
And basketball were the district champions, hockey were state champions, and wrestling were district champions, and we had a couple state champions. Two state champions. And I think we should do something to recognize their accomplishments and all that they've been trying to do.
We will get that taken care of. Thank you for reminding me. I meant to mention that. Sorry, thank you. And we will get that done. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I do have one more comment.
Please.
I was speaking with Town Manager Rodriguez a little earlier, and I had gotten a call from a merchant downtown who says, is this on?
Lowe's. Hello? There's going to be spring break in Texas this coming week, and there's also the next following week, Colorado. Right now, there's apparently a big hockey tournament going on, and there's a lot of families, a lot of kids right now, and they're concerned because they didn't know whether the meters had gone to 50 cents in 4 hours or if they were still 2 hours at $1. And I think it would be good to somehow get that out to the merchants tomorrow.
I think there was a press release today, right? Yeah.
We published it on the website.
On the website? Is it on the radio or anything, or?
Yeah, they've done multiple meetings.
Yes, Mayor, council members, a press release or news release did go out today, and that went to the news media, which includes the radio stations as well as the newspaper.
Okay, thank you.
Santa Fe, Albuquerque.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Appreciate it. Anything else from council? We have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Have a second?
Second.
All wishing to leave, say aye.
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 Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.